I'm Dr. Russell Dawn, President of Concordia University Chicago. Thank you for tuning in to today's Cougar Athletics broadcast. We take great pride in the strength of both our athletic and academic programs, which are rooted in our steadfast commitment to Jesus Christ. Dedicated to the liberal arts as a foundation of a high-quality college degree, we believe education should form individuals for service to their neighbors. This makes Concordia Chicago an exciting and fulfilling place to study, work, learn, and grow. Learn more today by visiting cuchicago.edu. Thank you, and go Cougars!
In River Forest, CUC Football back at Concordia Stadium here on the beautiful campus of Concordia University, Chicago. CUC Football, the 2024 home opener against the Spartans of Manchester University. Peter Borkowski here on the Cougar Sports Network, joined by Jonathan Shear. And Jonathan, what a beautiful day for some football. A little warm, but there's always a good day to have your first home football game of the year. A lot of excitement around campus. Again, football is back here at CUC, and this is a really exciting year for CUC. First year under head coach Chase Hankins. He was the offensive coordinator the past 2 seasons for CUC. He's now in the driver's seat for the Cougars football program. And Jonathan, we got our first taste of Chase Hankins-led CUC football last week. Fortunately, didn't go so well for Coach Hankins in his debut as head coach. A 54-23 loss at the hands of the Panthers of Greenville University. And I think the frustrating thing about that game, Jonathan, for the Cougars is the good things they did against the Panthers. They had more first downs. They had more third down conversions. The metrics were not that different. Passing yards, total yardage, it really wasn't that big a divide between the Cougars and the Panthers, yet that didn't really turn out on the scoreboard. CUC losing that game 54-23, and a big reason for that, our thing that Coach Hankins touched on in our Coaches Weekly, was the team's inability to finish that Saturday.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at the end of the second half, around halftime, there was a point the Cougars were within 1 score, and it looked like they were going to be right with Greenville. They could have caught up, maybe won that game. In the second half, that finishing caught up to them. Greenville pulls away, ends up being a bit of a rout. That's a huge problem for a football team, but it's a fixable problem. It's one that you would rather have than the inability to move the ball whatsoever, especially early in the season. First game under a new head coach, you're working into the system. It's a kink that, great, you don't want to have that kink, but you can work through that kink and get the experience going, especially early on in the season, through non-conference, figure out where you're going, because you've shown you can gain those yards. You can work your way down the field. The Cougars had plenty of players who did put up big performances this last Saturday. So really just getting those performances to turn into points is key.
Right, and another metric was CUC 2 for 4 on trips to the red zone, 2 scores on those 4 trips. So that's another key Coach Hankins really focused in on in our Coaches Weekly. But one of those big players you mentioned was sophomore running back Joron Brown, was all NAC honorable mention last year, just missed being the NAC freshman of the year. Coach Hankins says that Joron's playing with a bit of a chip on his shoulder because of that, and I think we saw that, Jonathan, against Greenville, over 150 yards on the ground rushing, added a touchdown in there as well. And for a team who's figuring a lot of things out, you have a young quarterback, you have receivers who are trying to mesh with that quarterback, to have that consistent presence in the backfield in Joron Brown, who's going to put his nose down and get you some hard yards. That's a huge advantage to this young CUC team.
Oh, absolutely. Like you mentioned, it's building the team with a strong base at running back. You can have a great passing offense. This team is looking to get there. That's where Coach Hankins' background is. But you have that running back as a safety blanket, and Joron Brown is a heck of a safety blanket to have for this Cougars team. 150 yards against a Greenville team that doesn't have that shabby of a defense in the very first game of the season under a new system. And going forward, especially in this game, the Cougars are going to look to that running offense to really set the standard to allow the rest of the offense to work. Because with having Joron Brown as that threat, the opposing defense is going to have to focus on him. Especially today, looking at Manchester, they're going to have to focus on Joron Brown, which opens up the secondary. It's going to give sophomore QB Colton Bosch that opportunity to have a bit more open space further downfield to look, because you're going to have that defense looking in the backfield at Joron Brown.
Well, let's talk about that opposing defense for CUC today. It's Manchester University, the Spartans, out of North Manchester, Indiana. They're coming off a rough debut of their own, 27-3 loss at the hands of Westminster, Missouri last Saturday, second season under head coach Van Hunt. And Jonathan, this Manchester team as a whole, it's a younger squad. They lost 4 all Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference players from last year. 3 of those were on the defensive end, and I think we saw that against that Westminster, Missouri team. Manchester just didn't really have a lot going for them. Under 100 yards rushing from their number 1 running back, Waddington, under 100-yard passing from their starting QB, who's not the starting QB today. So this was a Manchester team who just didn't have a lot going in that season opener.
No, if you can't get anything going on offense, you're going to struggle to put up points. One 56-yard drive that resulted in a field goal, painfully close to the end zone, just had to settle for 3. Otherwise, you're really struggling to put together a drive. And then on the flip side of that, on defense, they really just let Westminster just hold that ball, drive down the field again and again. And it wasn't a ton of points for Westminster, but it was a ton of time. And it really just didn't give that offense any time to get going. You mentioned those freshmen. You look at the defensive front for Manchester, one senior, Jalen Grimes, on defensive end. The other 3 starters and the 4 backups, all freshmen. Incredibly inexperienced defensive front for this Manchester team. And that kind of showed up against Westminster, because it was that rush defense that really, really struggled against Westminster.
Well, one defensive player who didn't struggle against Westminster, who we can talk about really quickly, is Jaquan Williams, that linebacker. And he's going to be a big player for Manchester today. That linebacker, middle of the field, kind of QBing the defense, if you will, especially against a rush-heavy CUC team in Joron Brown. Williams, with those 2 sacks against Westminster, he's going to need to have another monster game today to not only stop Joron Brown once he gets past that front line of defense, but also hopefully keep Colton Bosch, a little off balance, and keep him from settling in the way we know Colton Bosch can. So big game coming up for Jaquan Williams.
Absolutely. It's a very different kind of team, CUC, compared to Westminster. Westminster, they run a lot of QB rush. They don't do a lot of passing. It's all about options out of the backfield. For Concordia, Colton Bosch is not a running QB. This is not that kind of team. So they're going to be looking at Joron Brown as the running back. Is that going to be a bit easier for Manchester to cover? Are they going to get caught off guard by that? Are they going to get caught off guard by a team that's going to be willing to pass more than Westminster does? That's going to be the really big thing for Manchester's defense this week.
Well, really quick, some history about these 2 teams. Manchester 2-0 against Concordia in their history. These 2 teams haven't faced off since 1987, however, and they haven't played here at at Concordia University Chicago since 1986. All right, Jonathan, less than 2 minutes here. Let's get your lightning points here. What does CUC need to do today to win the game?
We kind of foreshadowed that when we were talking about him, but establish the running game with Jerron Brown. You have a strong running back. You're going up against a team that struggles against the run. If you can establish Jerron Brown on offense, that opens up the door for a strong day on offense to really just keep driving down on Manchester, put points up on the board, and keep them from keeping up with you.
All right, and my key to the game is just finish for CUC. Coach Hankins harped on it all coaches weekly. You need to finish in the end zone. The defense, they need to play 4 downs. They can't give up after 2 or 3 downs. They got to keep going the whole way through. If CUC and those younger players can start finishing those drives offensively and defensively, Cougars got a good chance of coming away with their first win of the year, first win of the Chase Hankins era, and first home win in their first attempt this season. But we're going to have that game for you coming up shortly on the Cougar Sports Network. Cougars of Concordia University Chicago taking on the Spartans of Manchester University. It's the 2024 home opener for CUC football. Jonathan and I will be on the call with you all day long, so don't go anywhere just yet. Cougar football coming up shortly here on the Cougar Sports Network. Cougar fans, Peter Borkowski here on the Cougar Sports Network, bringing you this edition of Coaches Weekly. And once again this week, I'm joined by the head coach of the CUC football team, Coach Chase Hankins. Coach, welcome back to the show. Excited to talk to you today, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And you and your team opened up the 2024 season last weekend, a trip down to Greenville University. And fortunately, things didn't go your guys' way. 54-23 win for, again, as we said last week, a very talented Greenville team. But coming out of that first weekend of the regular season, and then like you mentioned last week, first time you've seen your team, hit another team, as you put it. This is the first time they played anyone other than themselves. What were some of your general takeaways from that Saturday? I know things didn't go the way you guys wanted on the scoreboard, but what are some of the positives you're taking away from that Saturday, and what are some of the main improvements that you see that need to be made based off that Greenville game?
Yeah, so I think that I've always hated this part of coaching where you talk about moral victories and silver linings and stuff, because there's no moral victory column in your record. But with that being said, I think that there were really three potential outcomes that could have come from the game. First one, the easy one, the one that we were hoping for, was a win. The second one was losing due to a gap in talent, and then the third one would have been losing due to a gap of experience. And I think that if you can't win the game, you'd prefer the loss be due to experience rather than talent. I felt that we played for 3.5 quarters really, really well, but Greenville had 8 or 9 fifth-year seniors that have experienced what it's like to be in a tight game and let that experience carry them through and keep playing for the full 4 quarters. So, athletically, I was really impressed with what we were doing, but there was a lot of experience that we have yet to get to that makes up for some of those touchdowns that we left off the board or touchdowns that we gave up late. So, luckily, we lost that game due to experience, and experience, or the lack of experience, gets solved with experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And in terms of one of the positives, at least on the scorebook, for an individual player, was Joran Brown. Had himself a really nice game, over 150 yards rushing, scored a touchdown as well. And I mean, he's just a sophomore. He's already an all-MAC member from last year. What's it like having that younger yet still very talented presence in the backfield like that? I mean, you guys are still trying to work out other pieces of the offense. You got a sophomore quarterback and Colton Bosch under center, but what kind of reassurance is it almost to you and your coaching staff knowing that Joran is going to do his thing? He's going to get his yards. He's going to be that steady back he was last year, and as we saw against Greenville, he can be quite explosive at times too.
Yeah. I think that Joran's playing at an extremely high level, and this is sort of his revenge year where he missed the Freshman of the Year vote by 1 vote.
Oh,
and
really?
He missed 2 or 3 conference games. So, if you play one of them, you might get that vote to get your Freshman of the Year award. So, it's fantastic being able to rely on him and rely on other staples of our offense like Devin Bledsoe and Jace Levi and Henry Jones, and Colton is starting to mesh better, where we're going to start to rely on Colton more as we get further into the season. But there's a lot of talent on our offense that we're really excited about. Where last year we were thinking about how we spread the ball around, and now this year we're still trying to figure out how to spread the ball around, but more out of excitement and getting the ball to guys that can do cool things.
Playmakers.
Get it. Yeah.
And now looking at the defensive end of the ball, obviously most weeks 54 points allowed isn't going to cut it. And I think something we saw against Greenville was their ability to get explosive plays. I know their quarterback had a big QB rush for a touchdown. What does the defense kind of need to shape up on that end to, obviously not allow 54 points is the obvious answer, but also limit some of those explosive plays? Just what are some of the improvements that you need to see on the defensive end of the ball this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, I would refer back to my first answer where there was just a gap in experience. Our defense is extremely young. I think we got 2 seniors on defense. I could be miscounting, but
right.
I think it's sort of a overly simplistic way of saying that the defense played horrible. The defense didn't play horrible. They would play first down great, second down great, and then third down they think that it's over, and then that lack of experience causes them to kind of take their eye off the ball. So, now that they've experienced how important it is to play every single down, in my opinion, it will solve itself.
Right.
Just continuing to do the things that they're coached to do, continuing to do what the schematic calls for, and then allowing that experience to grow and develop them along the way.
Definitely. Well, you guys are back in action tomorrow. The home opener for the season, you welcome Manchester University to Concordia. And I think one of the other things that jumped off the stat sheet from Greenville was you guys did outperform them in a lot of categories. You had more pass completions, you had more first downs, third down conversions, stats like that. You actually did lead the Panthers. So what's the key tomorrow against Manchester, making sure that those team stats convert into team success, right? You had all those team stats in your favor against Greenville. Now what's the key tomorrow to making sure that you get them again, and this time it leads to a win, hopefully, for your team?
Yeah, just finishing. Finishing those drives. We went down to the red zone 4 times and scored twice, and that is, again, taking your eye off the ball due to a lack of experience, where now they've got a game under their belt and they see what happens when you don't do things. Hopefully that'll carry over into actually finishing drives on both sides of the ball.
Right. CUC Football back in action tomorrow afternoon, welcoming Manchester University to CUC for the 2024 home opener. Kickoff is set for 2:30, and coverage can be found at our website, cucougars.com, and the live stream can be found on our YouTube page, CUC Sports. Coach, thanks again for joining me today, and good luck tomorrow. I'm looking forward to talking about tomorrow when we meet again next week. But until then, this is Peter Borkowski signing off of the Cougar Sports Network, and when we say, as always, go Cougars!
Cougar football is on the air. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Concordia Stadium here on the beautiful campus of Concordia University, Chicago, as we get set for today's NCAA Division III football matchup between New York Concordia University, Chicago Cougars, and the visiting Spartans of Manchester University. Peter Borkowski here on the call with you all day long, joined by Jonathan Shear as we see the team set of captains meet at the Cougar Head for the the coin flip. Troy Prattley, Colton Bosch, and Trayvon Thomas meeting for CUC. And Jonathan, it's an exciting day. It's the first time this home crowd will have a chance to see Coach Hankins at the helm of the CUC team. Let's talk about Coach Hankins a little bit. Introduce the new head coach for everybody listening at home. He was hired as head coach back in February of this year, the 21st ever head coach of CUC football. Still his first season. Previously, he was the team's offensive coordinator and QB coach since 2022. Before that, this is kind of one of the things that you circle on his resume. The wide receiver and tight end coach at Aurora helped coach Aurora to the second best passing offense in the country one season. And again, if you know anything about NAC football, you know that Aurora squad under Coach Don Beebe, who Coach Hankins came from, that is a heck of a program to say that you helped coach. So Coach Hankins, a little feather in his cap in that regard. Was a GA at Aurora before that. He also played quarterback at Hope College and Elmhurst University, just 20 minutes west of us here in River Forest. So it'll be interesting to see what Coach Hankins is able to cook up in his first home game as a head coach for the Cougars, as CUC will be kicking off to start here. They are sending out the kicking unit. It will be Ryan Auer, the senior kicker for CUC, will be doing the honors of getting us started here in the first home game of the 2024 season. So we'll get a chance to talk about the Manchester offense in just a second here. Manchester under second-year head man Van Hunt, hired back in April of 23, spent 7 years with Allegheny College, and now see what he can do here. His second year at the head of Manchester, as the first kickoff is going to take a couple bounces. Manchester, the return man, grabs it, sidesteps a couple defenders, and is eventually brought down by CUC. That is freshman James Lewis, running back on this roster. Made his college debut last game, 8 rushes for -1 yards. A rough day for James Lewis in the backfield. He gets a decent return, able to sidestep a defender or two. And now, Jonathan, we get to see the CUC defense, who they got a lot of questions to answer today after their Greenville game. 54 points given up, and Coach Hankins pointed out in our Coaches Weekly that there was a lot of they'd get, 2 downs, they'd get to that third down, they'd be looking great, and they'd kind of give up on the play a little bit. They think, hey, we got the third down, this is it. And an experienced team like Greenville was able to take advantage of that. So CUC's defense looking for a better performance today under second-year defensive coordinator Bo Flowers, as the first play for Manchester is a handoff and a big rush here. First play of the game, and he could go the distance. He is brought down. That is a huge rush for Manchester to start off today's game. That is number 25, Cameron Hovey, senior running back out of Sheridan, Indiana. A huge gain on the first play, and that is not what you want to see if you're a Cougars defensive player.
Absolutely not. This is a Manchester team that really struggled to get their offense going in any substantive manner last week, and a big play on their first game play is a big shift of.
As Dante Cheney looks to the sideline, he finds a receiver. That is number 4, Darrell Moss Jr., all HCAC honorable mention last year. The receiver has played 23 games coming into today throughout his career, 59 receptions for 550 yards. He gets a decent gain there, as it is second down and close for Manchester. Less than a yard to go. So we'll see what Coach Van Hunt and his offensive staff cook up here in their first trip to the red zone of the day. Just 2 plays it took them, and they were already knocking on the door of their first score of the day. Cheney, he's going to roll out of the pocket. Heavy pressure by CUC, and Cheney's just got to dump it. Good pressure there from CUC linebacker Isaac Young, playing in the nickel today, a sophomore out of Jackson, Michigan. That's just good pressure, forcing Cheney to dump that ball in a hurry.
Yeah. Dante Cheney, he's actually out there making only his second career start at quarterback. He's a senior. He's been around the block, but only started 1 game last year and had a rough time out there. Never started again last season. He's starting again this game, and the Cougars might be looking to get to him. He's going to be a bit nervous. It's his first start this season, first start in over a year, so Cougars might be able to take advantage of that.
Cheney, and they hand it off, and diving forward to try and get enough for the first down is the featured running back on the play. And they give him the first down. That was James Lewis on the rush, the return man for Manchester, able to scrim and scrap for a couple of inches needed. First down and goal now for Manchester. Fresh set of downs to punch it in the end zone. Dante Cheney takes the snap, and he's going to look in the corner of the end zone, and he'll overthrow the intended receiver, Moss.
Yeah, Cheney was never looking anywhere except Moss on that play. That's a typical red zone short yardage fade into the end zone. And Cheney, like you mentioned, just overthrew it right there. He knew where he was going, but he did not hit the spot he needed to hit right there.
And that was Jonathan Ungst in coverage for CUC, the junior defensive back. And you know, I think if he had gotten that closer to Moss, you could make an argument for PI. Ungst never turned his head to look at the ball. He was all up in Moss's grill, and Cheney ruined any chances of that with the overthrow. Cheney now a little dump here, and it goes to no one. Good pressure by the CUC front, getting in that backfield quickly. And that's, you got to look at the Manchester O-line and just say, you got to give me more time than that, guys. Cheney, at the second he stepped back, he had a Cougar defender right in his face.
So you can say, oh, Cheney's cracking under pressure all you want. Like you mentioned, that's a split second, especially on the play action play right there. You're not going to have time to really look up and see where your players are. You're just trying to not get sacked. So Manchester falling into a third and long here on 3rd and goal.
They're within the 10-yard line, but they got to get it in the end zone here. 3rd down, Cheney looking, has to get mobile. Cheney, and he's brought down in the backfield. Big sack for the CUCD. Number 95, Adam Landbaz, one of the first players in the backfield. Jamari Jackson helping out as well.
And the Cougars only picked up 1 sack last time out against Greenville. It was Isaac Young last week, already getting their first defensive stand against Manchester. And after a defensive stand that started out pretty rough, that's a pretty good result for CUC, being able to keep the Spartans out of the end zone.
So Manchester's going to have to try and settle for a field goal here as they look for their first score of the day. The kick is up, and it is no good, wide right. So CUC's defense gives up a big gain on the first play of the day and then holds the line in the red zone. Missed field goal from Diego Moguel, a freshman kicker out of Frankfort, Indiana. And, you know, Jonathan, that's kind of a good rebound for the CUC defense. You give up the big play, you give up another fresh set of 1st and 10, 1st and goal, I should say, and to be able to hold the line there within the 10-yard line of the end zone, that's going to hopefully be a big boost for the CUC defense after what was a very shaky start.
It's just a massive sigh of relief for this defense. I mean, that really looked to be a very poor start to this game, and now the momentum's completely flipped because Manchester is feeling really disappointed after what should have been a very strong start to the game for them has now kind of gone off the rails a bit.
And a flag on CUC. They had some personnel issues. Number 82 for the Cougars, Manuel Mendoza, was playing a little bit of what do I do here? He was running off the field, running back on the field, running back off, and because of it, CUC will have to back up a little bit. Still first down, but now 1st and 15 as the Cougars, they will hand it off, and just plowing his way through the defense is Joran Brown. Good first rush there as Brown, the sophomore out of St. Joseph, Michigan, basically makes up for the penalty.
And we talked about it before this game. This defensive front of Manchester is very, very young. 3 of the 4 starters out there are freshmen. And Jerron Brown, he is a big running back to be going up against coming out of the backfield.
So CUC, 2nd down and 8. Colton Bosch under center for CUC. Another handoff is Brown. Joran Brown still on his feet. Brought down, 1st down. CUC, Joran Brown. And Jonathan, this is not a surprise if you have watched Joran Brown's game. last season as a freshman. 6 foot 194. Might not seem like the biggest guy, but he is a strong rusher. I mentioned in the pregame show, he's that typical, I'm going to put my helmet down and just keep on trucking. We saw him shake off a couple attempted tackles there. So good couple rushes to get Joran Brown and the CUC offense started. Bosch takes the snap. First time we'll see Bosch throw today, and he finds a man in number 11, Wes Jackson. Jackson, couple tacklers it takes to make him go down, and that is a good gain for Wes Jackson, as it will now be 2nd and 3 for CUC.
This is a good 3-play start to the drive for CUC. It's chunk play, chunk play, chunk play. You're picking up more than 5 yards every play. That's a great recipe. Just keep getting first downs. Textbook drive to go down the field. And Manchester is going to have to figure out how do you stop those short plays that CUC is putting together right now.
Colton Bosch lined up almost on the near side hash as he'll drop back. And he will sling it downfield. Devin Bledsoe, the intended receiver, just past the outstretched hands of number 3 in gold. Colton Bosch looking for his senior 6'3" receiver in Devin Bledsoe. And let's talk about Colton Bosch a little bit while the Cougars reset here. Colton Bosch, a sophomore out of Coopersville, Michigan, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, has played in 6 games so far in his career. This will be his 3rd career start. He started the season opener for CUC, threw a pair of touchdowns, threw a pair of interceptions as well. So for Coach Hankins, this is all about getting Colton Bosch comfortable in this system. They know the kid's got talent. He's got a huge arm. He's probably got the best arm in this quarterback room. It's about putting it together now for Colton Bosch and CUC's the offense.
You have to expect you're going to see more shot plays put together by that. Coach Hankins loves to pass the ball, and Colton Bosch, like you mentioned, has that big arm. As CUC's dropped back a few yards here.
It'll be a 2nd down and 8 for CUC as they hand it off to Brown. Brown trying to sidestep his own offensive lineman, and now a pile of white jerseys converge on number 6 in gold. And that'll back him up just a smidge. Referees calling forward progress on Brown, so not a huge gain, not a huge loss, I should say. It will be 3rd and 9, however. So CUC, they're going to have to go downfield at least a ways on this play. 9 yards needed for a first down. Colton Bosch, only man in the backfield with him is Joran Brown. 3 receivers to his right, 1 to his left as Brown in motion now. Moves to the left receiving line as Bosch drops back looking downfield. Colton Bosch has to get mobile, and he's going to be brought down, ball loose, and it's covered up by a Cougar O-lineman. That was number 77 for CUC, Daniel Banks, recovering the fumble from Bosch. And that'll do it for CUC's drive. It is 4th and 16 for the Cougars. So they will have to bring out the punt squad. And going back to do so will be Dennis Vanderplow, sophomore out of Livonia, Michigan. 5 punts in his career for a total of 183 yards. The longest punt he's ever uncorked, 41 yards. As a high snap, Vanderplow will get the punt off. It's good airtime on it. Manchester's going to try and do something with it. And CUC able to cover him up and bring him down. Little to no gain there for number 0, George Miles on Manchester. Miles listed on the defensive line on the 2 deep for Manchester, but on the roster he is listed as a defensive lineman. They're using him as the return player, and really not able to go anywhere as CUC's defense get a second crack here at the Manchester offense.
Manchester was able to put together 2 big plays to start off their drive last time out, but it stalled out at the end. They weren't able to get really much of anything after those initial 2 plays. They're going to have to look to try to put together a complete drive here.
Manchester put a man in motion before the handoff, and the running back will gain about 3 yards on the play. That was number 25 for Manchester on the rush, Hovey. He was the running back who gained that massive package of yards to start off the offensive game for Manchester. First play of the game, first offensive play of the game. As he makes it a 2nd and 7 now on Manchester's own 38. Cheney Drops back. He's looking downfield. He will look towards the near sideline. Good grab there, as sliding down is number 88 for Manchester. That is Abdullah Mir, freshman wide receiver out of Muncie, Indiana. And he will bring up a fresh set of downs for Manchester. And something I'm noticing with Cheney so far, Jonathan, is he's not really going through his reads, it looks like. The couple passing plays we've seen from him, the couple passing plays downfield we've seen from him, he's really looking at his intended receiver the whole time through. And so far, it really hasn't bit him in the behind yet. But CUC's defense, if those D-backs are smart, they're going to start reading his eyes more and more as the game goes on. As we can talk about that more in a second. Cheney now looks for the near sideline. A catch and a tackle brings down James Thomas. And that's a good chunk of yardage for Manchester. It'll bring up 2nd and 4.
Yeah, but again, that's a scripted play right there. That one on the play action. Cheney fakes the handoff, immediately goes to the first guy he looks at, that primary read. Like you said, that's what he's been doing all game, has been going primary read, throwing primary read when he's supposed to. It's worked out a couple times. It's now worked out 3 times. But one thing that I've also noticed with those is he's actually underthrowing a lot of these balls. He's not getting them with speed to the receiver. So if you combine some sort of low-powered throws from Cheney with sort of a dead set on his receivers, that's something the secondary should be able to take advantage of.
Well, he lets rip a bullet pass there, and he finds the intended man in Lavarian Campbell, a freshman out of Cloiston, Florida, as it'll be another fresh set of downs for Manchester. So a little zip on that pass from Cheney, but even at that point, you know, the receiver, Campbell, he still kind of fumbled the ball a little bit. So Cheney, that not exactly tape-to-tape passes yet, as he drops back again, looking downfield. Now he'll start rushing as a couple flags fly, and Cheney trying to at least get to the line of scrimmage, and he's not able to, but we'll have to see what these flags are thrown in the backfield.
I think regardless of what these flags are, I think that was finally Manchester's run of pass play, finally catching up to them.
So illegal hands to the face on CUC. I believe it was number 97 they called it on Myron Spencer. Correct that if it's wrong. And it is an automatic 15 yards added to the end of the rush, as waiting for the referee to place the ball.
15 yards and a first down, and Manchester's now right on the edge of the red zone. They are at the 20. And the CUC, they really figured out the pass game on that last play. Cheney really couldn't find anyone. But then you make a mistake with the discipline on the defensive front. And if you are struggling to consistently stop the pass on a drive, you can't make mistakes like that.
Cheney will hold the ball on this one, runs around the offensive line as he'll get about 40 yards or so on the play. So Dante Cheney not being afraid to use his legs so far in this drive, at least. Didn't really see that in the first drive for Manchester. Didn't need to, because Manchester got to the red zone so quickly.
I think that's the big difference. This has been a complete drive for Manchester. They're putting together chunk plays of 5 to 10 yards and gradually moving down the field. They're not relying on big plays.
And a bad snap there. Cheney has to jump on top of it to save it, as that's going to hurt the Manchester offense. They'll be backed up a yard or so for 3rd down. Will be a roughly 3rd and 7 to go for a fresh set of downs. Cheney, last year, 30 rushing attempts for -4 yards. And as for this season, hasn't had a rush yet until this game. So Dante Cheney using his legs a bit more, as now he's got immediate pressure. He's brought down, flag thrown, ball down. Who's on top of it? As we have a lot to sort out here, and they're saying Cougar football. There is a flag on the play, so we'll have to see if this play stands. As now we get the word from the head ref. Holding on the offense, penalty declined, Cougar football.
And that right there, the Cougars, they sent the blitz. They sent extra men. Offensive line's not able to pick it up. And Dante Shaney, we talked about him looking at the primary read the whole time. He didn't have eyes in the backfield, and it was a blindside sack right there.
Right.
Straight from behind. He has the ball in one hand. He's getting ready to pass. Textbook strip sack. Great call on the blitz on 3rd and long right there for CUC. And again, Manchester gets the ball down to the red zone but is unable to finish.
We talked about finishing on pregame in relation to the Cougars, but so far it's Manchester who's been able to do anything. They are now 0 for 2 on trips to the red zone. 2:29 left to go here in the first quarter. A handoff to Joran Brown. He stutter steps, try to find an opening, and he will gain 4 yards on that rush.
You're really going to be looking to CUC to open up the passing game here on this drive. They had some success with a rush on the last drive, but Manchester figured it out. The Cougars unable to get past midfield on the last drive. To really get that rushing game going, they're going to want to mix in that passing game here, whether it's short passes, medium passes, something to vary it up and keep the Manchester defense on their toes.
That fumble from Cheney forced by Marvin Rushing, senior on the CUC team, was a transfer from Valparaiso last season, as a throw to the near sideline will gain about a yard. On the reception was Henry Jones. Another transfer to CUC last year. He came from Oregon, didn't play at Oregon, attempted to be a walk-on, I believe the story is. So then he transfers to CUC to really start his collegiate football career, as Henry Jones does have some speed to his game. Didn't see it there, only about a yard on the completion, as Colton Bosch now drops back, throws across the middle, caught for a first down, Wes Jackson. And CUC will move the chains. Wes Jackson in on the reception, and Wesley Jackson for CUC. He's listed as a quarterback on the roster, and CUC, they have, 3 quarterbacks ahead of him, as Joran Brown will now run into a group of white jerseys for a gain of 4. And Wes Jackson didn't really see time at quarterback last year, so Coach Hankins and the offensive staff trying to use him differently this year. He's listed on the 2-deep as a tight end, a 6'1", 205 sophomore. Big body across the middle, able to grab that ball. Fresh set of downs for CUC, and now it's 2nd down and 6 for the Cougars. As the clock, less than 24 seconds to play, CUC, one more play likely on this drive as the throw is grabbed. Tough contested catch there. Jace Levine makes the snag. The senior out of Davenport, Iowa, was 2nd team All-NAC last year after transferring into CUC. And as the clock winds down, it will hit 0. So that'll do it for the first quarter of the 2024 home opener for the Cougars. And no points on the board for either team, but CUC's offense looking to change that quickly. They are marching downfield. They're in plus territory, so we will have more CUC football. Cougars looking to strike first here in the 2024 home opener against Manchester University. Don't go anywhere just yet. CUC football will be back shortly on the Cougar Sports Network. Well, back here at Concordia Stadium, 2nd quarter action. Fake handoff there. Colton Bosch will now look downfield. Henry Jones just misses the catch. Beautiful ball there from Colton Bosch, slips through the fingertips of Henry Jones. Bosch had his eyes on the red zone, on the end zone, and Henry Jones just not able to reel in that throw in front of him. That would have been a statement to make here in the second quarter.
Oh, absolutely.
To start the second quarter.
That's your shot plays. That's what we're going to see throughout this game. Big arm and Colton Bosch, very fast receiving core for this CUC squad. Henry Jones, one of those speedsters out there. That was a very catchable ball, and it was just a miss route on Henry Jones, just undercut where Bosch had it and was able to get fingers on it, but was going to be a tough play with where he was on the field.
Meanwhile, Joran Brown unable to even reach the line of scrimmage. He's tackled for a loss of 2, so it'll be 3rd and 12 for CUC. Ball on Manchester's 39-yard line. CUC's got to go down the field here. They need 12 yards for a fresh set. Colton Bosch, Manchester brings the pressure. A little dump off here to Devin Bledsoe. Bledsoe tries to jump the defender. He is caught up by the left leg and brought down. So it is 4th and manageable for CUC. So decision time here for the Cougars.
You have Troy Prattley coming in now at QB. He's a bit more that utility guy, listed as the backup QB for the Cougars today. You've seen him play all over the field, not just at quarterback in the past year for CUC, and that's what the Cougars are going to be looking for here, a bit more of that unpredictability.
Troy Prattley is a rushing threat. He's a much more mobile quarterback as he hands it off to Brown, and Brown brought down. Is it enough? It's going to be close. Cougars signaling yes, Manchester signaling no, waiting for words from the referees as they peel off defenders. That ball is right at the yard marker, but not quite close enough. A 4th down stop for Manchester University, and it results in a turnover on downs for CUC. And that's one of those decisions, Jonathan, that it's just tough to make. You are far away from the field goal. It would be a tough field goal for Ryan Auer to make, but you're too close to punt without the threat of it going out the back of the end zone. So CUC, they take their shot on 4th down, and it is ruled not quite enough. Ball now given to the Spartans.
Yeah, and you can't fault that decision-making right there for the Cougars. You go for that 4th and short every time. I mean, you almost got it. That was right on the line. The Cougars' offense didn't leave the field because they wanted it measured. It was that close, and that's a tough one to swallow that you weren't able to get that 1st down, but it's still a bit rough field position here for Manchester, so your defense isn't in that big of a hole.
Cheney just escapes a sack and turns it into a nice gain with his feet. Cougars have been living in the backfield all day, but Dante Cheney using his mobility to escape the sack threat from CUC. Again, defensive coordinator as well as the defensive back coach for CUC is Coach Bo Flowers, his 2nd year with the squad. Other main coaches for CUC, Sevi Lubril, the special teams coordinator, Jackson Joyce, the offensive lines coach, and Charlie Clark, the running back coach. As a rush for Manchester goes absolutely nowhere and will result in a loss of a yard.
And Lewis isn't getting out of the backfield there. Again, this CUC rush has been very, very strong so far. Going up against the most experienced part of this Manchester squad. Well, their defensive front is very freshman loaded. This offensive front is on the opposite. A lot of experience on this in this sort of offensive line room for Manchester. Not all of them starting, but you have a lot of seniors getting mixed in and out of this unit on the field.
3rd and 6 for the Manchester offense. Cheney looks for his receiver, finds one and finds a 1st down, and escaping the tackle is James Lewis. Lewis is still on his feet down the far sideline, and he is pushed down from behind by the Cougars defensive back. Almost a touchdown run for James Lewis, and just getting some hands on him was the CUC defensive back.
That's a great third and long play right there for Manchester. And James Lewis is able to take advantage of being able to find just enough gaps to avoid an easy open field tackle for the Cougars. You had some hands on him, like you mentioned, but never enough to bring him down, never enough to get that open field tackle.
Brandon Montford on the tackle as an offensive penalty called now. So
that's a false start. That's going to drop Manchester back 5 yards, drop them closer to the edge of the red zone. This is the third time today we've seen Manchester in the red zone. They're still scoreless on the day. They've been unable to finish, get into the end zone, or even get between the goalposts on their 3 trips to the red zone so far. Looking to get that done here after another big play.
They had a field goal attempt on the first drive of the game, and it went wide right as they hope for better luck here. Cheney, a strong throw out of bounds. He had a few yellow jerseys in his face. Trevon Thomas was one of them for CUC. And
that's just a throwaway for Dante Cheney right there. He recognized that he wasn't going to be able to find an open man quick enough with that rush and just chucked it out of bounds in the direction of a receiver. No risk of intentional grounding. So if you're going to throw it away in that scenario, great decision from Dante Cheney right there to keep it alive. But it's still second and long for the Spartans.
Second down and 15 for Manchester. They'll try to gain a couple yards on the rush here, and they'll get a few. And that was running back Cameron Hovey, who Manchester has been using quite a bit so far today. Interesting that we haven't seen Albert Wadlington yet for Manchester. He was their lead rusher in that Westminster loss, 68 total yards on the ground. And we haven't seen number 31 in white yet. So, of course, he's on the 2 deep, so he was expected to play when the 2 deep was set, but we haven't seen him yet, so maybe an injury for number 31. As here's a wobbly throw, and it is just broken up. Good defensive play there from CUC's Isaac Young, able to get a hand up. That was a wobbly throw. It was intended for number 88, who was just a few steps away from the end zone. That is Abdul Amir. And good coverage there by Isaac Young. And if you're Cheney, you got to put a little bit more gas in that ball. As we could talk about that in a second here. Second field goal attempt of the day for Manchester from Moguel. Missed his first one wide right on the first drive of the game, as he'll try to redeem himself here. And that is no good, wide left. And there is a flag on the play, however. CUC's coaching staff looks unhappy, so I think Manchester's going to get a mulligan here if the Cougar reaction's anything to go by, as now we listen to head referee.
It's an unnecessary roughness against the snapper. That's a very, very unique call, and that is a gift for Manchester from the Cougars. That's first down again, right up on the edge of the end zone now for the Spartans.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it looked like something went wrong with the kick. Not only was it a missed field goal, but it was kind of flat, and it was just a terrible miss. And, you know, you expect to have more confidence in Moguel than that, so you can kind of tell just from the kick something went up. It was tipped, or in the case of what actually happened, a penalty on CUC. And that is just a bad turn for this defense. You get another red zone stop, and now you have to send the defense right back out for a fresh set of downs. First and goal for Dante Cheney and his Manchester offense. Cheney takes the snap. He's got a pressure right in his face, and this ball will miss by a mile.
And that was very, very fortunate for Dante Cheney that the Cougars are playing man coverage right there and not zone. Something with football offense, especially red zone offense, that goal line fade is a very, very risky play. It's one of the most intercepted plays in all of football. And that right there, Dante Cheney completely off page with the receiver running that goal line fade on exactly how deep they're going to go. If the Cougars are running zone right there, that's an easy pick. That's a lofted ball with no receiver to contest it in the end zone.
It was Aiden Paredes, the intended receiver. He had Jonathan Ungst on him, and we see those two, 14 in white, 27 in gold, line up once again. As now a throw from Cheney is into the ground. That was James Thomas, the intended receiver. And to go back to the Paredes play that Cheney overthrew, I mentioned it earlier with Unks. Unks is getting pretty physical with his receivers. And if you're Cheney, you might start thinking, hey, if I start throwing more in the vicinity of that interaction between Unks and his defender, his offensive player he's defending, I could get a pass interference called. So Unks is being very handsy. He's not looking at the ball. See if that comes back to haunt CUC's junior defensive back. Meanwhile, Manchester, they got to convert here. 3rd down, and the throw is dropped off the hands of Justin Abiagam. 5th-year tight end for Manchester, was all HCAC honorable mention last season, and put into his hands, just unable to reel in the catch. And because of it, Diego Miguel would get another chance at a field goal. And if CUC, the defense, already a success right now, just being able to get another red zone stop, we'll see if they get a red zone stop from a touchdown or a red zone stop period. Miguel gets set. The snap brought down. Miguel, the kick is up, and it is good. First points of the game belong to Manchester. Diego Miguel on his second official field goal attempt, let's say, punches it through the uprights. First one was no good. Second one was brought back by a penalty, as you can see on the replay. Kick was a little low. It was a bit of a line drive kick, but when you're that close to the field goal, you just got to punch it through the uprights. Miguel does that. Manchester up 3-0.
Yeah, that's big for Manchester. You're on the board. You got the points. You've already matched your points total from your last time out last week. You have to feel a bit sick coming off of that drive if you're Manchester, though. Sure, you got gifted a second chance to put points up on the board after you miss your first field goal, but you were put less than 5 yards away from the end zone after that personal foul. And once again, you were unable to actually get in the end zone, and you had to settle for 3 points. This team hasn't been able to really gain any yards once they get in the red zone, not even 1 or 2 on a play. And that's something that's going to get really, really frustrating for this offense as they continue to just get stuffed in the red zone every single trip they make it there.
So 9:48 left to go here in the first half. Manchester takes a 3-0 lead. CUC's defense doing some good work just to keep them out of the end zone, though, of course, giving them a second chance after the penalty on the field goal attempt is undesirable to see for Coach Bo Flowers and his CUC defense, as it will be Jace Levi on the return. Jace Levi works his way, bounces off a defender, flags flying. Jace Levi eventually dragged out of bounds. As now the referees run in, there is a Manchester Spartan on the ground as he is helped up by a teammate.
We'll have to see which direction this flag is going.
As we take a listen to the head referee radioing in over the PA system. Illegal block on the back from the returning team, CUC. So that'll bring the return back 10 yards. CUC maintains possession, but we are seeing some discipline issues on the CUC team, and it's something Coach Hankins, didn't directly address in the Coaches Weekly. Instead, he decided to talk about experience and the lack of experience on the CUC team just because of how many of their key pieces are younger players, and somewhere you're going to see that inexperience take hold is penalties. The penalty that gave Manchester the ball back and eventually led to their first 3 points of the game, and then a penalty there that backs up the return as Joron Brown, good rush around the edge, gets it right to the first down marker. We'll see if it's enough. It won't be. It's shy by a little less than 2 yards.
Now, it was actually a jet sweep to Henry Jones, and you talked about it. He's one of the quickest players on this team. Henry Jones, coming in as a transfer last season, he holds the school record in the 40-meter dash in the indoor track and field team. One of the fastest players on that track and field team. That's something that you can absolutely use on the football field as well, especially on plays like that. That jet sweep that you can usually get a few yards out of, especially if you have a player as quick on their feet as Henry Jones.
So this time it is a rush from Joran Brown, and he gets just enough for a first down as CUC gets the play calling in. See Coach Hankins on the CUC sideline about even with Colton Bosch and his offense. As the snap back, and it's over Bosch's head. He has to run back. He recovers it. Bosch trying to make some magic happen, and he'll just airmail that one into the CUC bench. And honestly, not the worst outcome of that play. That ball was going back, at least 10 yards, and for Colton Bosch to grab it and just send it out the sideline, it puts you right back where you were with second down now. So not the worst outcome on the botch snap over Colton Bosch's head.
And taking a second to look downfield and see where you could throw it to not get called for intentional grounding too was really quick on his feet. Quick thinking from Colton Bosch right there.
It's a good snap this time across the middle for Jace Levi, who reels it in, and he'll have enough for a first down.
That was a really nice route from Jace Levi, really tight cut right there, and a really nice throw from Colton Bosch too. Zipped it in exactly where Jace Levi wanted it to avoid the defenders around him, be able to secure a pass that he was hit pretty much immediately after making the catch.
Jace Levi is playing in his 12th game in the maroon and gold, has played in every game since he arrived to campus last year. 42 receptions for 727 yards on the career. As a handoff here and forward progression called on Joran Brown. But Jace Levi, since coming to CUC last year, has really taken a hold of that number one receiver spot, and it's because he does a little bit of everything. You can look for him downfield. You can look for him across the middle. He's just one of those receivers who maybe he's not the fastest guy out there, maybe he's not the strongest guy out there, but he just does everything so well. He's such a versatile threat for Colton Bosch or whoever is throwing him the football. As Troy Pratley, big rush here for the Swiss Army knife of the Cougars, throws up the first down hand, and CUC, a big gain here out of Troy Pratley. And you love to see that from Troy Pratley. Again, Jonathan, you alluded to it, kind of the Swiss Army knife for CUC. I like to call him the Taysom Hill of the Northern Athletic Collegiate Conference, just in everything he can do. He's an accurate thrower. He's a good rusher. He was an all-conference honorable mention last year as a quarterback, safety, and punter. So Troy Pratley just does everything, and a throw downfield is over the head of both Devin Bledsoe as well as Yandel Victoriano.
Bledsoe kind of stutter-stepped on that one, really underjudged it initially and slowed down and didn't stand a chance of catching back up to the throw. We go back to Troy Pratley. You bring in your utility QB, your rushing QB for one play, and on Manchester's side, you've got to be expecting the rush at that point, and they just didn't adjust from what they were expecting with Colton Bosch. That was a wide-open gap off the option play right there for Troy Pratley. He saw the gap. He took that thing. That's the biggest play of the day for CUC's offense.
So second down and 10 as Bosch looks towards the sideline, finds Levi. Levi dodges a tackler. Jace Levi is off to the races. He's got to beat one man into the end zone. Touchdown, Cougars! Jace Levi showing why he was second team All-NAC last year. Catches the ball about even with his quarterback. And that is all he needed, was just that little bit of space. He is off to the races and into the end zone. Great play there by Chase Levi, and we will have that replay for you guys coming up in just a second after the PAT attempt for CUC. And the Cougars, I don't know what they're cooking up here, and now a whistle blows as there's a flag. False start on the offense. So before we talk about the Levi touchdown some more, we got to dissect what just happened there. Troy Pratley was in the backfield for the snap. He had one player to his right, I believe. Ryan Auer, the kicker, was on the field. He was hidden like behind a wall of players on the left side of the line of scrimmage. I'm still trying to figure out what that one was, as our now lines up for the more traditional point after the kick is up, and it is good. So CUC, after some shenanigans, gets the extra point, as now we can see the replay on your screen here.
And this touchdown right here, it's a nice little bubble screen over to the sideline to Jace Levi. And every single one of your Cougars just is going to hit the block exactly where they need to on this play. You look right over there, block number 1. There's the gap. Levi going all the way down. That's center. That's number 56. Jalen Franklin getting all the way down to the goal line to make that last block. And that's a big play, perfectly executed for the Cougars right there. Jace Levi, you talked about it right before that play. He can do a bit of everything, and he showed off the ability to break a tackle and the speed on that touchdown right there.
So CUC puts up the first touchdown of the home portion of the 2024 schedule, and they take a 7-3 lead over Manchester. Kickoff here from our. It will take a bounce, and it's misplayed there by James Lewis. He's still trying to grab it. Lewis breaks one tackle, shrugs off a man, but is pushed out. And now we have some extracurriculars here as CUC trying to hold back their own man.
James Lewis a bit frustrated right there after that return. Completely misjudged that bounce and almost got to the sideline. Almost looked like it was going out of bounds for a second, but Lewis, I mean, he salvaged it. He got it back up to the 15, but he got very, very physical on the sideline after that play right there.
And I believe it was Darius Williams, number 25 for CUC. Basically, Lewis kind of threw an elbow to shrug him off, and then did a little step-over move over Darius Williams, the old Allen Iverson disrespect move, and Darius Williams took some exception to that, and he had to be held back by his fellow players to not escalate the situation. Manchester back on the offensive end of the ball. Here is Lewis. Lewis now cuts inside. He's got a first down and some more down the near sideline. James Lewis shrugs off another tackler and another step-over, and now the flags fly. That time, it was number 14 for CUC, Marvin Rushing. Well, James Lewis is playing some angry man football right now, but it's not even that. It's the step over. He did it to Williams, and now he does it to Rushing, as the referees have a conversation, as James Lewis puffing his chest out a little bit, saying, you want to tackle me, you're going to feel it, as now we receive word from the head referee on the call.
That one's going against Lewis. Unsportsmanlike conduct, again, for the step over. And you have to think that one might not even been just because the officials didn't like the step over on that run. You have a step over on 2 consecutive plays.
It was number 2, right. That's exactly.
The Cougars' sideline was angry. Everyone's mobbing down there, and that's a move to just rein it back in. Calm down the game. Don't let it get out of hand to the point where you can't control it anymore. You can take a step over or 2, but you don't want to get any big fights breaking out, and the official is just trying to bring this game in, reel everyone back, get them to calm down for a second.
As Lewis put in motion now, Cheney, who gets nailed, and Lewis drops the ball. CUC maybe playing with a little bit of anger. A big hit on Cheney right as he threw it. It is legal. And then James Lewis unable to reel in the catch. So no step down will happen on that play.
James Lewis really needs to bring that one in. He had a lot of open space on the far side right there. And sure, Cheney could have put a bit more zip on that one, but that ball hit the hands of Lewis, and that's one you really need to bring in. That's a textbook catch.
So a rough break for James Lewis. Draws the flag for unsportsmanlike and then unable to reel in the throw out to the wing. As now a flag flies, whistle blows.
And that's going to be a false start going against Manchester once again. And this drive really hasn't been able to get started because of the flags. Lose your big rush because of an unsportsmanlike conduct from the man who made the rush. Drop back another 5 yards after a false start. So you haven't really gotten this drive started at all, and you've only gone backwards a bit for Manchester.
Yeah, that's where if you're Coach Van Hunt, second-year head coach for Manchester, you just got to reel your team in. You got to say, guys, we are shooting ourselves in the foot right now. We are gaining those yards, but we are moving in the wrong direction because of discipline things. As here's a throw, it is reeled in before brought down. Ethan Skinner on the snag will gain about a yard or so past the line of scrimmage. So Manchester about where they started. It is now third down, however.
But you do got to say, after a personal foul, after a false start, 3rd and 9 is not the worst place in the world to be. This is manageable for Manchester. We've seen when they're not in the red zone, they have big play capability, or at least 10-yard play capability. So they have the ability to get this first down, and we're going to have to see the Cougar defense. Hasn't been the best on third down defense so far this season, but they really are going to have to lock in on that this play.
Cheney tries to find a man across the middle. It's over his hands, and CUC was just a yard or so from picking off that play. Intended receiver was Abiagam.
And that one through the hands of Abiagam, bit behind where he would have wanted it, above his head, which is impressive for a player as tall as Justin Abiagam. But still, again, very, very catchable ball for Manchester. That one hits you square on the palms, and you just can't bring it in. Abiagam, with the route he was running, very likely could have made it to that first down marker if he reels that one in.
So CUC coming into today from the Greenville game as we have a stoppage here, waiting for the call. It looks like a timeout. I haven't heard official word yet, as now the referee is separating the coaches from the players.
I don't believe it's a timeout. I saw some of the players on the... That's what it is. It was the game clock is off from what the officials want. I saw some of the Cougars sideline pointing up towards the scoreboard. They wanted more time, but both teams using that little mini timeout. Get some words from your coaches.
Yeah, but the referee's not happy with that. They said, hey guys, this isn't a timeout. Let's break things up here. Even though Manchester was having some talks over on their sidelines. I guess the far side ref missing that. Here's the punt. It is off, and it will be reeled in by the Cougar returner who calls fair catch. That is Bubba Henson on the attempted return. Henson, a junior out of Potosi, Missouri. And he just decides to play it safe, call fair catch, and CUC just on their side of the 50 will start their next drive. But Cougar fans listening, we're less than a month away from our Cougar Classic golf outing, and lucky for you guys, there is still time to register and join CUC alumni, fans, and family for a fun day out on the course. All you have to do is head to cucougars.com/Cougar Classic or scan the QR code on the video board if you're here at CUC Football, also listening to the broadcast. We appreciate you guys listening, even if you're here in person, and all you have to do is go to cucougars.com/Cougar Classic or scan that QR code to learn more and sign up your group of 4. And we will see you on October 11th as CUC back on the offensive. They'll get a few yards on this drive. The carry by Bubba Henson, who first rush we've seen out of number 8 in goal today.
Cougars coming off a drive. We had a big touchdown play to Jace Levi. Momentum is on the Cougars sideline right now. Big touchdown play. Absolutely shut down the Spartans on their next drive. And now you have the ball about midfield with some great field position to put together another scoring drive with just 3.5 minutes to go till half.
Colton Bosch batted down. That was a prime interception ball for number 9 on Manchester, Jaquan Williams.
And honestly, if you're Jaquan Williams, good play. You swatted that one down, but that's a pick you need to have. Colton Bosch did not see you lurking in the middle of the field. He got both hands on that swat. That was right in front of his face, and it's early in the game, and it's a great play either way for Williams, but whew, that could have shifted the momentum in favor of the Spartans.
Yeah, Jaquan Williams is only 5'9", so the pass might have been a little high for him to really get a good handle on, as brought down on the rush for CUC.
Only 1 yard to go. You're going for it here if you're the Cougars.
That was on the rush, number 9, Jaden Taylor. as it is 4th and 1. CUC being risky, going for it on 4th down on their own side of the field. Bosch has Boopa Henson to his right. 2 receivers to his left, 1 on his right. They hand it off to Henson. Henson able to dip and dive through the defense and gets a 1st down and some more.
Exactly. You're in no man's land right there, so you're not going to make the field goal from there. Any punts is going to be right up to the end zone, if not into the end zone. You might as well go for it, especially if you're confident you can stop the Spartans, especially if your run game has been routinely gaining 3 or 4 yards on every single play. If you're that confident in your run game, especially playing tempo like the Cougars did, not giving Manchester the chance to sub, then that's a very, very smart play from the Cougars offensive play.
And that's a great run from Booba Henson as Colton Bosch uncorks one downfield, and it is over the head of both Bledsoe and Victoriano.
Either way, great throw from Bosch right there, just off the target, but he was hit as he threw right there. The rush got to him. He had a man on his left arm as he uncorked that one, and again, another shot play for the Cougars.
And I mean, that's who you want to put those plays up is Devin Bledsoe. Bledsoe listed at 6'3", 195. He's your 50-50 ball man. Tall. He's got some size to him. He's going to go up with those taller defenders or go over the defenders if they're not as tall as him and bring down those 50-50 balls. Unable to do it there against Victoriano. Now Bosch throws, and it is tipped and touches the ground. A good effort there from number 3 on defense, Victoriano. And that'll bring up one of the new changes to the college football game this year, the 2-minute warning across all levels of NCAA football. Obviously, if you've been watching NFL football, you know what the 2-minute warning is, but this is the first year that it has made its way to the college football game. And it's going to be interesting, Jonathan, to see how that affects the coaching decisions. I mean, you basically have a built-in timeout with the 2-minute warning. Everyone knows how it works in the NFL, so you now have that advantage here at the college game as well. And it's going to be interesting to track as the season goes on just how this 2-minute warning is effectively used by both coaches on either team.
It absolutely changes the game for clock management, especially when you get down to those close games in the fourth quarter. Second quarter, it gives you an opportunity to put together that 2-minute drill, but fourth quarter, that's when you're really going to see this come into play. That bonus timeout when you need that extra time to work your way downfield, tie up a game, take the lead in a game. This is a big game changer for clock management in the college football game.
CUC 3rd down and 10 here on the game so far. The Cougars 1 for 4 on 3rd down conversions.
This is a 3rd and long conversion for the Cougars here.
They have Brown in the backfield with Bosch. So you're guessing a passing play is in the cards here. Cougars need 10 yards. It will be a passing play. Bosch, and he's got a defender right in front of him. Colton Bosch, he is spinning, and he is brought down.
That's the interior offensive line for the Cougars breaking down right there.
It was Colvin Gilbert. He was the man who broke through that offensive line, the freshman out of Monroeville, Indiana.
Gilbert had no resistance breaking through the interior O-line right there. Got up, felt some contact, but nothing that really slowed him down, and Bosch kind of was like a deer in headlights right there. You see the man coming, but you've got to figure out what to do. Your receivers haven't gotten enough progression to be open yet. You can't make the play you need to. You're not going to outrun a man coming at you at that speed with no blockers whatsoever. So very, very rough spot to be in for Colton Bosch, and a very good opportunity for Manchester now. You're going to have a punt that's going to give you some all right field position and a prime setup for the 2-minute drill for the Spartans.
Yeah, and the Spartans, they use a timeout, and 2-minute drill will really be a 151 drill for the Spartans. And now the pressure is going to really be on Dennis Vanderplow, the punter for CUC. You need to pin that in the back 20. If you go at the end zone or you allow anything, your special teams allow, I should say, a decent return, that's going to spell trouble for you and your defense potentially. So if you're Vanderplow, pin that baby in the back 20, and that's going to give your defense a really good opportunity to get something going here in the last minute 52. As Vanderplow, the kick, it goes to about the 25, and falling on top of it and just taking it is number 24, Manchester.
That's a punt you really want to return right there. You have some open space. Sure, you might get tackled, but at this point in the half, you're going to want those extra 5 or 10 yards right there. And it was just misjudged. It was not the longest punt from Vanderplow, but it was a low punt, had an interesting spin on it. It was just misjudged, underjudged, and you're not going to get any return on that. Great job to not muff it at least. At least you're not giving the Cougars the chance to take the ball close to the red zone, but 75 yards now to go for the Spartans.
Yeah, the return man just falling on top of it, taking the loss, saying, all right, I know I'm not going to get anything. As here's a throw out to Hovey, and he's wide open. He's got one man in front of him, and he'll just rush out of bounds safely to save some time.
That was a phenomenal play in the pocket right there from Dante Cheney. Felt the pressure coming from behind, coming from the sides, stepped up, stepped to the right, had the check down wide open down by the 30-yard marker, and just a nice little toss right to Hovey. Plenty of yards. That's the great first play when you need to get that short clock drive in.
It was Isaac Young, the only Cougar in the vicinity for CUC's defensive back, as now Hovey takes a big hit out of bounds. Hovey trying to find some room around the corner and gains less than a yard, if that. And now we see a timeout. And I believe it is CUC the ones calling it.
Obviously, the Cougars might want to figure out how to stop this drive, stop the momentum, don't give up a field goal or a touchdown. But second down, minute 32, if you can stop this drive from Manchester in the next 2 plays, minute left on the clock, that's enough time to put together a drive. That's enough time to get down there, maybe get a field goal, maybe get a touchdown. So I can guarantee you that's what the Cougars' mindset is on the sideline right now. Maybe you can cook up another offensive opportunity before you head to the locker room.
Yeah, CUC and Manchester both have 2 timeouts remaining. So plenty of opportunity for both coaches depending. And if you were Manchester, you might just want to rush the ball here and get that clock rolling. Obviously, you want to move downfield as they will pass it as they look and overthrown towards the intended target, Jarrell Moss Jr., and it was Jonathan Unkston coverage. And, you know, I said that Unks was being physical and that PI might be a consequence of that, but so far he's done a good job of avoiding the flag, of being clean in that regard. And he has done a decent job of locking up some of Manchester's top threats, not allowing them to get going with Cheney.
He's doing a great job of towing that line, but also Dante Cheney's downfield accuracy is very, very inconsistent. Most of the times he plays towards Unks, he misses the target by a fair margin and makes it an uncatchable play to begin with.
As now he corks a high ball, couple jerseys, and it is brought down. Oh my goodness, what a snag for Manchester. As that was Abdullah Mir. He had 3 yellow jerseys in his vicinity, and Abdullah Mir, the freshman, going up and bringing down that tough catch. What a play there from the first year from Manchester, as referees blowing whistles now. Having words with Coach Hunt of Manchester. I believe they're trying to fix the clock here. But that's a huge momentum shift going back to that catch. I mean, honestly, that had interception written all over it.
That was less than a 50-50 ball right there. I mean, that was double coverage. Cougars had 2 defenders on it.
And there was a third in the vicinity, too.
I would almost say part of the reason that ball was caught was because it had interception written all over it. That ball, you're hungry to get that pick right there. And
as Cheney, his throw off the hands of Ethan Skinner. Too much gas on that throw for Skinner to handle, as there is a minute 11 left to go here in the first half. Manchester knocking on the door again. So far in the red zone, they are 1 for 3. They've gotten a field goal out of it, and they hope for more here. A field goal would bring them within 1. A touchdown could potentially put them up by 3. Cheney takes a snap, hands it off to Hovey. Hovey brought down right past the line of scrimmage. Cameron Hovey not getting much on that rush. And CUC, because it was a rush, they keep the clock moving too. And if you're the Cougars, now you have to play some interesting clock management. Do you try to slow the game down, maybe leave yourself enough time to get something going, or do you just keep that clock running and keep the pressure on Manchester? Say, hey, if you guys want to stop that clock, you have to use a timeout. We're not helping you out. We just want to get to half up by 4 or maybe 1 at this point.
And it looks like that's what the Cougars will do. They're going to let that clock run out. But on Manchester's side, hey, you gain positive yards in the red zone. That's something they haven't done in a hot minute.
And now a timeout will have to be used. There was less than 2 seconds on the play clock. So Manchester, maybe this was the intention as well. Run that play clock down and leave just 22 seconds left to go on the board. This is kind of, the analogy for basketball fans out there, holding that ball till the last couple seconds, saying, hey, we want the last shot. We're either going to score here, we're going to get a field goal, or if we don't do either, we're going to make sure you don't get some points as well.
Yeah. And I can guarantee you, Manchester's game plan coming out of this timeout, going to hand the ball off to someone, probably Hovey, have him run it towards the end zone, because he just gained a few yards. You get a touchdown and you take the lead before half, ideal case scenario. You would love to see that. If he's brought down, you still have a timeout left. You let that clock run down until 4 or 5 seconds, call that timeout, send Mogel out, kick the field goal. He can make field goals from that distance, and you go into the half only down 1. Either way, Spartans looking to be the last team to score in this half.
3rd and goal for Manchester on the 7-yard line. Trying to, as Jonathan said, put an exclamation point on this half. Either go up by a field goal if things go well, or at least bring this within 1 with a field goal of their own. He has Hovey. Cheney has Hovey, and he will instead decide to throw it. Cheney has to rush out. He is still looking, and he will just throw this out of bounds. And if you're Coach Van Hunt for Manchester and you are Manchester's offensive coordinator as well, Zach Metzler, I don't know how you feel about that play. I mean, Cheney, he wasted a lot of time off the clock, which I guess is a good thing in the regards of you're going to kick the field goal anyway, so CUC has less than 15 to do anything with it. As here's Mogweel. He's made 1 today, he's missed 1, and now whistles blow. And we have a timeout for CUC. They're icing the kicker as they're going to try to keep Mogweel, who is on the day 1 for 1 when the field goal attempt actually counts. 1 for 2, when the field goal actually counts.
I think Mogil has actually one of my favorite stats I've seen this season. That game against Westminster, he had their only points, a field goal, an 11-yard field goal. You cannot get a closer field goal than an 11-yard field goal. You almost never see a kicker who gets that opportunity. It's a nice little fun fact for Diego Mogil's stat sheet for this year. But going back to that 3rd down play, for Manchester, the running game is what's really been working for them. You had a big pass play, but it's been incredibly inconsistent, especially in the red zone. The run game's what's been working, and you could have made it a bit larger, gotten Mogel off the right hash if you run that ball, but they're content with it. They'll take the opportunity for 3 points.
So Mogul will line up, trying to make his second field goal of the day. Snap is down, the kick is up, and it is good.
That's the best field goal attempt we've seen from Mogul all day. Confidently splits the uprights, not wobbly whatsoever. You'll head into the locker room, likely being the last team to score, only trailing by 1. You'll take that to end the half. You do leave 13 seconds on the clock for the Cougars after this kickoff, though.
So CUC, like Jonathan said, we'll have 12.9 seconds to figure something out here as we get a replay of the field goal. Like Jonathan said, just a confident kick. No questions about it. But as for CUC now, I mean, you're going to get basically one shot, maybe two, depending on what happens. And so we'll have to see if Coach Hankins just decides to bite the bullet here and say, hey, we'll just take the 1 point lead going into half, or if he decides to let Colton Bosch show off the arm a little bit and launch it downfield. It also depends on what happens on the return here.
I think if you get this ball to the 30 or further up at all, you let Colton Bosch take a shot after this kickoff here. Anything further back, they let the clock run down this far on that Manchester offensive drive, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them just need it out this half.
Line drive kick. It is scooped up by Chase Levi, and he's going to see what he can do here. Chase Levi is brought down right before the 25-yard line. So CUC, as they got to stop the clock, it wound for a couple seconds after Levi went down. I mean, there should be at least 5 seconds on the board. We'll see if the refs correct it. And they do. So 6.8 seconds left to go, and it looks like Colton Bosch just getting right behind the center. He's going to take a knee here, and we'll end the half. He does so. CUC electing to just waste the last 7 seconds of the half, and they'll head into the locker room up by 1. A barn burner going on here at Concordia University Chicago. CUC, thanks to Chase Levi, get the first touchdown of the home portion of the schedule. Other than that, their offense held to little gain, and meanwhile Manchester, the struggles in the red zone throughout the game, unable to punch it in the end zone, but Diego Mogwell able to get his team 6 points thanks to a pair of field goals. So Coach Hankins and the Cougars, they'll head to their locker room. Coach Hunt and his Spartans, they'll head to the other locker room. They'll talk things over, and when we come back, 30 minutes remain in the 2024 CUC Football home opener. Cougars up by just 1 on Manchester. Don't go anywhere. When we're back, we'll see if the Cougars can hang on or if Manchester's got to come back and score. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a minute on the Cougar Sports Network.
University Chicago is a Christ-centered Lutheran university where truth, freedom, and vocation form students for lives of influence and service for the common good. Our university offers a wide variety of undergraduate and graduate degree options that are available in person and online. That means we have a program designed for you. Whether you're a high school student, an adult returning to complete your degree, or someone looking to enhance your credentials and prepare for career growth. As a member of this university community, you'll also find support in your spiritual and personal life so you can grow in the faith and discover ways to serve others. To start your next journey with us, visit cuchicago.edu today.
Welcome back to Concordia Stadium as we get set for second half action between the Cougars of Concordia University Chicago and the Manchester University Spartans. CUC leading the Spartans by a hair, 7-6 in the 2024 home opener. Peter Borkowski, Jonathan Shear still with you on the Cougar Sports Network, and it was really a tale of the offenses struggling. Both defenses are playing well, but I think we're just seeing that, especially on the Cougars, let's start there. Their offense is still kind of trying to figure it out. I mean, we've seen a lot of throws from Colton Bosch downfield that were just a little mistimed by, a yard or so. It just looks like this offense for CUC is still very much a work in progress for the Cougars.
Absolutely. You can tell that they have pieces that are working, but they haven't figured out how to meld them together into one consistent drive. They can't string together enough plays to move all the way down the field and get it in the end zone or between the goalposts, just put up points. They'll get a first down, they'll make another conversion, and then the drive dies out because Manchester figures out the passing, and the Cougars haven't figured out that balance between passing and rushing and switching between those because it's so early in the season. That identity hasn't been fully realized yet. On Manchester's end, the offensive identity has been figured out. They are moving the ball down the field incredibly effectively. Unfortunately for them, though, to the tune of only 6 points and going 2 for 4 in the red zone.
Yeah, it's really those red zone struggles that has been Manchester's Achilles heel so far. I mean, they are 2 for 3 in the red zone. So they got, a pair of field goals out of it, but it's really they get down there. They get down there, like you said, very effectively, pretty quickly as well. And then CUC's defense, that's really where the defense is shining for CUC. It steps up. It makes life hard on Dante Cheney, on Hovey or Lewis, whoever the running back is, and it just makes it incredibly tight, difficult space for Manchester to operate and get those end zone touchdowns. And they're going to need to fix it. I mean, you could win this. The way it's going, Manchester could win kicking just field goals, but that's a lot of pressure on their defense. A defense who, has struggled this year in terms of giving up those 27 points to Westminster, and also struggled last season. Manchester, they gave up an average of 44.5 points per game. That was 7th best in the HCAC, 7th out of 8th. So this is a Manchester defense who has struggled last year. They lost 3 of their key defenders. They've been playing some really good ball so far today, but they're going to have to keep it up. And if you're Coach Hunt, you don't want to put that on your defense. You don't want to say, hey, guys, keeping the one touchdown for the next, 30 minutes, and we're going to win the game for you. You want to be able to say, defense, thanks for your help. We're going to let the offense take over. But right now, it'll be the Cougars offense taking over. A short gain on the return by Chase Levi. And Levi, the only touchdown scorer of the day for either squad. A little shot out to the wing from Colton Bosch, and Chase Levi had all the space he needed to take that one to the house. Had a couple good blockers as well.
Absolutely. The most dangerous part of the Cougars right now from Manchester's perspective, that there's 30 minutes left on the clock and that there's clearly more left in this offense. The longer this goes on, the likelier the Cougars can figure that out.
As Joran Brown stumbles forward for a couple of yards. In terms of the first half stats, Colton Bosch, 88 total yards and a touchdown pass, 7 for 13, 54% completion rating. And for Joran Brown, the featured running back, 48 yards on 9 carries, had the longest of 15, average of 5.3. And then the big receiver of the day so far, Chase Levi, 3 receptions for 56 yards and the touchdown. That came on a 35-yard jaunt to the end zone, as Colton Bosch going to hang on to this one himself. And that'll be enough to move the chain. So Colton Bosch, we've been talking about, isn't really a mobile quarterback. For those quarterback runs, they usually bring in Troy Prattley, but Colton Bosch just taking it himself on that play, gets enough for the first fresh set of downs.
Yeah, you don't see the QB option run much with Colton Bosch in the backfield. That's exactly why you use it in a scenario like that. Catch the defense off guard.
As Bosch throws and just short changes Joran Brown across the middle.
And that's a missed opportunity. Brown
broke through the coverage, had a massive gap in the zone in the middle of the field, and Bosch out ahead of him and underthrown. Missed opportunity for the Cougars. Got 2 more downs until you get to 4th to figure something out, but that's really one of the worst misses we've seen from Bosch today.
And it looks like Colton Bosch is just trying to get that chemistry down. As Bosch, a throw, and he finds Devin Bledsoe. Bledsoe sidesteps the defender, and now he gets all wrapped up. So it'll be a gain of about 8 for the senior out of St. Charles, Missouri, suburb of St. Louis.
Yeah, it looks like they'll give him the first down.
They're going to say, Bledsoe was able to plow ahead. He looked like he was short by a good 2 yards or so, but Bledsoe, again, big-bodied receiver, 6'3", 195, just able to stay up on his feet and keep pushing forward. As now we get a jump in the defensive line that looked like Marcus Washington. We'll have to make sure it was the defense first and not offense. And it is. Offsides called on Marcus Washington. Freshman mistake out of the rookie from South Bend, Indiana. Made his college debut last game to the tune of 3 total tackles, 2 unassisted and 1 solo.
Yeah, something on the snap count got Manchester caught off guard right there. It wasn't just Washington who jumped early. He just jumped the biggest.
And here's Levi out on the wing. He'll get a first down. And, you know, Jonathan, as much as hero ball is kind of negatively associated in the sports world, sometimes when your offense is struggling, like CUC's has been today, you kind of just got to rely on that. There's something to be said about get the ball to your playmakers and let them be playmakers. Chase Hankins even said something to the tune of that during our Coaches Weekly, and we said that's how they got their 1 touchdown. Basically a lateral throw from Bosch over to Levi, and Chase Levi just did what Chase Levi does. Now here's another big playmaker. Joron Brown gets around the corner, gets a first down, and falls forward for some change as well. Joron Brown.
That was a beautiful delayed handoff from Colton Bosch right there. Just held it with Joron Brown for over a second. They convinced Manchester's defense that Bosch was keeping it. And either you're going to have Bosch running it to the right or he's going to be passing over to the right where all the receivers are. That entire far side of the field was wide open. And you just get that delayed handoff to work perfectly. Give Joron Brown the space. He hasn't had much of that today, but if the Cougars can get that rolling, you're going to see more of these kind of plays out of CUC.
And now a timeout called by Coach Hankins and the Cougars. They still have 6 seconds on the play clock, so this might be a more of Coach Hankins, who has been the offensive coordinator the last 2 seasons, is the offensive coordinator again this year as head coach, kind of sharing those duties. Maybe saw something he didn't like in his offensive set, so he's going to take a timeout here. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out for CUC. You never like using a timeout in the second half in the opening 3-4 minutes of play, as we are right now, 11:57 left to go in the third quarter. So obviously if this drive turns into a touchdown, you're going to say, we'll take it, but if something doesn't go right the rest of this drive, you burned a timeout in a second half where, you know, I was thinking about this in the halftime intermission. Second half is where you make your money as a coach, right? You have that halftime to readjust, to figure out what's going well, what's not going well. Second half is really the coach's game to come out and say, all right, these are the adjustments we need to make, and you just hope that an early timeout used by Coach Hankins doesn't come back to haunt the Cougars. 1st and 10 for CUC within the 30. Bosch, and he's just going to keep this one and take off, and he throws it. Was in front. It was caught by Devin Bledsoe, and a flag throws. I think Colton Bosch was in front of the line of scrimmage.
That's in front of the line. He threw that at the 26. It was a late flag on the throw in front of the line of scrimmage, but it seems to be a pretty easy call.
As the referee having a chat with.
So it's a legal pass. All right. I guess the sideline official threw the flag, deciding to be safe, and then discussion awards it the other way.
I'm not, and I know the Cougars aren't going to argue with it, but from at least our point of view, he looked like he was in front of that line of scrimmage marker on the far sideline. So, interesting. We'll see how this plays out. That could be a little bit of a gift for CUC. As Colton Bosch, a handoff to Joran Brown. Joran Brown using a blocker effectively. Joran Brown jumps ahead for a good gain. Good blocking there from Jalen Franklin, senior out of New Orleans, Louisiana.
He's been phenomenal on the moving blocks so far today. Had a massive block down on the goal line on the Cougars' touchdown earlier. And again, right there, perfectly running the route he's supposed to stay in front of Jerron Brown and clear a path.
And that might be why they like Jalen Franklin, because on paper he's a little undersized. And now a legal play on the defense, so CUC's going to gain even more yardage on it. They're within the 5. So Manchester putting the Cougars even further up the field. But to finish my note on Jalen Franklin, 5'9", 242, maybe a little undersized for what you'd expect out of a lineman, but what that allows him to do is be athletic, get out there and get those blocks downfield like we saw there and like we saw on the Jace Levi touchdown. And CUC knocking on the door as now a flag flies on the far sideline.
That's a sideline warning against the Spartans, and
you can see Coach Hunt is very animate. He's wearing the yellow long sleeve on the right side of their bench, and must have said the magic word to the referee. As here's a rush for Joran Brown. Can he punch it in? He won't. Good tackling there by Manchester to keep him out, as Brown gets maybe a yard out of it.
This is a very weird feeling down on the field right now from Manchester. I mean, you miss that sort of iffy, was Colton Bosch past the line of scrimmage, goes in CUC's favor. Good play, again, in favor of CUC right after that. And then you get a penalty. And then you get a sideline warning. Everything's tumbling right now.
CUC knocking on the door. They're on the 2-yard line. Bosch, he's going to look, and he's going to throw. Touchdown! Jace Levi once again. Cougars strike. Touchdown, Cougars!
Perfect out and in route right there from Jace Levi. Slip underneath the coverage. Get that hole right on the goal line, and Bosch doing enough to just get it to Levi and let him reel it in.
So we'll get that replay in a second, and CUC again with this kind of weird formation we saw
running
earlier.
The sweeping gate again.
They have most of the players to the left of the ball, and now they break it up as they will attempt a traditional field goal. Interested to see what the thought process is behind that play. So the extra point from Ryan Auer is up, and it is through the uprights. CUC 7 more points on the board as we see the replay here.
Yep, and again, you look here. Watch Jace Levi on this one. He's not going to head to the end zone right away. He's going to bide his time after the ball is snapped, and he's clearly the primary read the whole way. Bosch is going to be looking to the right as soon as this ball is snapped, but they're going to let this play out here. There's the ball snapped, and then Jace Levi coming in from the outside. He bides his time, waits to slide in. It's a bit soft coverage on Jace Levi from Manchester, and that sort of soft coverage is just enough for him to have enough space to bring in the pass. And meanwhile, we're going to have another flag out on the field. Something going on with Coach Van Hunt once again. He's still animated with the officials.
Yeah, there was another flag as illegal conduct on the Manchester head coach. And so that'll move the point of kicking for Ryan Auer up to the 50-yard line. And now for Ryan Auer, you got to play a little strategy here. You have a really good opportunity to pin Manchester back. If you can kick this ball 30 yards, you can get them within the 20.
You just want to float this kick in right here. This is a lot more about technique than power.
As Auer will kick it, and that ball is going to sail through the
good.
uprights. So, hey, a 60-yard field goal if it was a field goal attempt for Ryan Auer, and unfortunately doesn't count for much other than a touchback. So Manchester will take over at the 25-yard line. And now the pressure's on Manchester, Jonathan. You had CUC, they came out, they did what they needed to do. They had offensive struggles through that first half. They come out, they score a touchdown on the very first drive of the second half. And if you're Manchester, you have to keep pace now. You have to get some points on the board, preferably a touchdown, because you haven't had a touchdown at all today. So this is a big drive for Coach Van Hunt, for Coach Meckler, the offensive coordinator. And this ball is blocked, and it is dead. Cougar got a hand on the ball right out of the pass from Cheney.
And Cougars showing blitz, putting 7 up on the line, and they didn't rush all of them. They only rushed 4, but the Manchester offensive line didn't know who to block. But you said it, this is an important drive for the Spartans. You need to respond right here. You let the Cougars score on the opening drive of the half, march their way down the field, long 4.5-minute drive, put 7 on the board. You have to make a statement here.
It is still technically a one-possession game, as this throw right in front of James Thomas, unable to get there in time. As you see Cheney and Thomas having some words and working on that timing with each other. Again, it's still a one-possession game for Manchester, but you want to keep it that way, even when CUC gets the ball, if they score again. Because if you get a field goal, if you don't get points at all in this drive, CUC gets the ball, they score another touchdown. This game is starting to look out of hand for the Spartans. So a pivotal drive for Manchester, and just to prove that they can put the ball in the end zone would be huge. As Cheney, that throw out of bounds, and it's going to be a 3-and-out for Manchester.
That one, once again, the Cougars' defensive pass rush just breaking through right there. Isaiah Hill. Cougars pass rush getting straight to Cheney, forcing him to just throw it away. Again, we've seen that so many times today where Cheney is forced to just get it out there to avoid taking the sack. The offensive line isn't giving Cheney consistently enough time he needs on these 3rd and longs to make a play happen.
Punt here for Manchester, and CUC got dangerously close to the punter. Booba Henson's just going to peel off, let this ball bounce its way past the 30 to the 25, and it finally dies down at the 24-yard line. So a good punt there off of the boot of Angel Estrada, sophomore kicker / punter out of Brennan, Indiana. He's been the man kicking off for Manchester today, which you do see that a lot in college, and it's starting to even work its way to the NFL a little bit of. We're going to have our kickoff kicker, that guy who just has an absolute boot on him, who can send that ball as far back as possible, and then we're going to have our field goal kicker, who maybe has a little bit more accuracy. Manchester going with that game here. Estrada taking care of the kickoffs and punts, while Mogul going for the field goals. 2 for 3 on the day for Diego Mogul from the field goal attempts. As CUC, they get the ball right back here. And a handoff by Bosch, and the rusher is brought down. That is number 9 for CUC, Jaden Taylor, sophomore defensive back, but he's had a couple rushes today. Just a speedster CUC likes to use in a multitude of roles, as it will be a loss of 1 for Taylor and the Cougars. 2nd and 11. Bosch aiming to throw. He's got a rusher, gets away from it, and now he's tripped up. Great pursuit there.
Yeah, and Bosch just held on to the ball too long right there. He tried to find somewhere to get rid of once he realized the rush was coming. He had to do something, but he looked to the left of the field. He didn't look right. He didn't throw it away. That's another costly play. 2 consecutive losses of yardage for the Cougars, and it's now 3rd and very long.
That was Jalen Grimes in pursuit, first team all HCAC, and now a penalty as flags fly. think they're saying too many men on the field, if I hear the ref correctly, as CUC trying to get the right personnel out there. And this drive just keeps getting worse for CUC, as it is now third in the parking lot for the Cougars.
And you have to wonder, you're going to maybe try and see a screen, get some nice yards after the catch, or you're going to let Colton Bosch use that cannon he has for an arm here.
And they will just rush it with Joran Brown. Brown using a blocker, and he's brought down right at the line of scrimmage. So Manchester's defense, a huge possession for the away team. You have a 3-and-out on offense. CUC has a chance to make it a 2-possession game, and instead the Manchester defense, thanks to a Cougar penalty as well, backs up the Cougars, and Dennis Vanderplow, the punter, is backed up into his own end zone. So CUC, their blockers on the punt in front of Vanderplow. They have to be on point here. Anything bad happens, any Spartan gets to Vanderplow, could spell trouble for the Cougars. Vanderplow does get the kick off, as it is caught. That could have been bad.
You do not try and receive that punt right there. That could have very easily been muffed. That could have very easily been a Cougar ball. You don't dive on that. And that's the second time we've seen a play like that out of this punt return team from Manchester. It's very risky, and it prevents the ball from bouncing further down, but that's a risk. You'll see most coaches set a hard line of absolutely not on.
And even if the returner didn't try to play it, that ball is only getting to maybe the 50, maybe the other 45. You're still getting good field position. So to keep the ball where it was, that was a big risk by the punt return team for Manchester to try and play even after the fair catch was called. So good field positioning, though, for the Spartans. They're in plus territories. Here's a throw downfield, and it is no good, intended for Skinner. He was draped on by the CUC defenders. No PI called either. It was a clean play for the Cougars.
That one thrown into double coverage and kind of off the mark. Some miscommunication between the route being run and where Dante Shaney was throwing that ball. You would have needed the intended receiver, Landon Hicks, to really shove through the secondary to get to that pass. Shaney threw it too far to his left.
2nd and 10. Cheney will get a receiver and a reception here out of Darrell Moss Jr.
Shaney has really had a statistical anomaly of a day. You look at his completion percentage coming out of the first half, it's actually only gotten worse since the first half. It's under 50%. He's completing less than every other one of his passes. He's well over 200 yards on the day, however. It's inefficient. They're not getting regular production out of the passing game, but it's producing enough to get them down the field. It's the reason that we have those unfulfilled red zone possessions from Manchester. The passing game is producing, however, be it unorthodoxly, but they really need that, get a bit more consistency out of that if they're going to get some points on the board.
Cheney slings it out to the wing, and here's Homie, and Homie, he's got some room up the far sideline, brought down without the 10. Cameron Hovey.
That's some beautiful running after the catch right there for Hovey. Take the screen, show out, cut back in, cut back to the right, get those immediate defenders off of you, and you have some open space. The actual secondary was pretty deep right there. The Cougars had to come in to take down Hovey.
And I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen more of Cameron Hovey like that. Every time he's in a play of that variety, he does something with it just because of his yard after catch capability, and that's where that anomaly from Cheney really comes out. I mean, that ball didn't move up a yard in terms of air time, air yards, but Hovey just making it work as here's a throw, and it is caught, and he was pushed out. Good defense from Jonathan Uggs. We've been seeing it all day, number 27 in gold, able to push out the receiver. It was a fantastic catch. Abdul Amir, the receiver for Cheney and the Spartans, and Unks just keeps him moving out of bounds.
Goal line fade once again. Immediate read, immediate pass. Right on the sideline. Absolutely no room for error, and you can't even really call that an error, just good coverage. You need that play to go perfectly to get the touchdown. It went incredibly well. Not perfectly.
And a bad snap. Ball is loose. A couple players fall on it. Whose ball is it? Referees signal CUC ball.
Bad snap. Cameron Hovey, it was right next to him for a while, and he had no idea where that ball was. He's looking around for it, and it's right between his legs. Big play for the Cougars. Another squandered red zone opportunity for the Spartans.
And there is a Spartan laying on the ground. He's being helped up by his training staff, and it is Cheney. As we see the replay on your screen now. As it was just a bit of an anomaly of a play. And yeah, the snap, I don't even know who the snap was intended for. And Hovey, like we said, just got lost. And
I think that snap was intended for Cheney. I mean, he jumped up for it. He tried to bring it down. And from what it looks like to me, it wasn't even the contact. It looks like he landed poorly. He landed awkwardly on one of his legs after he tried to sky up for that snap.
And because of it, Cheney's going to have to be helped off towards the sideline as a good rush for a gain here out of Joran Brown. So now an interesting story to watch at quarterback for Manchester. Starter Dante Cheney helped off the field. Will he be able to come back in for the next drive as Joran Brown gets another rush here? Joran Brown, his jersey was tugged on. He still kept moving, and he's got enough for a first down.
Breaking tackles. We've seen a lot of that from Joran Brown so far today. Works out for the conversion there for the Cougars. You'd love to see a long, complete drive again from the Cougars. More points up on the board. Get this away from being a one-possession game.
As they let Brown take it again, and Brown spun around and eventually brought down. Dual effort there from Javion Davis as well as Blake Hafley. And yeah, now the eyes, as you can see, Cheney is being treated by the training staff. Andrew Romero, who started last game for Manchester and had less than 100 yards passing, is listed as the immediate backup on the depth chart. So Coach Hunt and Manchester are going to see if their number one QB today is going to be able to come back in as Booba Henson gets knocked down by the legs. Gets really no gain on the play, and it'll be a third down for CUC now. Third down and 7.
Yeah, Romero's down behind the sideline on the far side of the screen, warming up over there, getting some extra passes in. Because in all likelihood, even if this drive ends right here, even if Dante Cheney is eventually good to go later in the half, you're probably not going to risk shoving him out there right away.
As Bosch, the throw, is it brought in by Henry Jones? And they're going to say, yes, it was a completion. That was a tough grab for Henry Jones. It was down by his knees, and then he went down on top of it. So Henry Jones, credit number 7 in gold, being able to just hold on to that ball, and it results in a first down for CUC as they're going to try and keep this drive moving. Bosch has got a runner to his left, and he hands it off to Booba Henson. And now here's some space for Henson. Henson cuts, and he's tackled, but a big gain. Booba Henson got about over twice what he needed for a first down. Eventually, he was brought down by Victoriano. And Booba Henson, kind of a situational back for CUC. He's speedy and he's shifty. And he was just able to dip and dive through the defensive line and able to bring up a 1st and 10 on Manchester's 28-yard line. Hand off now to Joran Brown. Brown waits patiently, starts cutting and gets a good gain there.
We've seen that patience from Jerron Brown bite him in the butt a couple times today, but more often than not, we've seen it do that. Wait to see where that hole is created, pick up 5 or 6 yards. That's how you build a sustainable drive.
Second down for CUC. They give it back to Brown, and Brown able to shake off a couple tacklers, and he'll come within a few yards of the first down marker. Jerron Brown, just a tough-nosed running back, able to shake off tacklers left and right, and that's how he gets a majority of his yardage.
The ability to create yards after contact is incredible with Brown. I mean, you have that big run from Booba Henson, too. It shows the ability of having those backs. Shifty, speedy back in Henson. Brown's fast as well, but he's your power back. He'll power through the line. He'll power through some linebackers. He'll pick up those tough yards.
Third and manageable for the Cougars. They hand it off again, and falling forward is the rusher, and it won't be enough for a first, as it'll be 2 yards shy.
I have to say, with the motion on the Cougars' sideline.
As now we have another Spartan down. It's the other number 5. That is Blake Hafley. Hafley, number 5 on defense. Cheney, number 5 on offense. As in terms of Cheney, you can see on the left side of the Manchester bench, he is still laying on his belly. And so as time goes on, it is looking less and less likely that Cheney will be entering this game anytime soon. And that means that we'll get a different look at quarterback for the Spartans. But in the meantime, Cougar fans watching, be sure to join us for Homecoming 2024 on October 12th. Also for the Hall of Fame induction. This year, CUC Athletics is proud to induct the 1968 football team. Class of 2009, Zach Bickle from the baseball team. From football, class of 2013, Jake Kohler. And from softball, class of 2018, Stephanie Diana. We hope you can join us for a full day of Cougar athletics, capped off with the celebration of these historic athletes who have worn the maroon and gold through the years dating back to 1968, that whole football team being inducted. Meanwhile, this football team, they hand it off to Jerron Brown, going for it on 4th down. Brown still on his feet. Is it enough?
And it looks like if it's marked where the officials are standing, that's enough, and that's a yards after contact play from Jerron Brown right there. He was hit at the line of scrimmage, and he just slowly pushed forward and forward and forward, gradually moving left until he had just enough to break that plane.
So 1st and 10 for CUC inside the red zone. Ball spotted on the 18-yard line of Manchester's half of the field. Snap back to Bosch. Bosch drops back, has some pressure, shoots it, and finds a man in Devin Bledsoe. Bledsoe wrapped up, ball loose, but the whistle was already blown to kill the play. An absolute shot from Colton Bosch to Devin Bledsoe. And Devin Bledsoe not only able to hang on to the ball, but also keep it away from some tacklers looking for the strip fumble. And now we have a timeout called by CUC. So Coach Hankins, 55 seconds left to go here in the third quarter. And you know Coach Hankins, he knows how big a score would be here. You score a touchdown, especially a touchdown or a field goal makes this a 2-possession game, but a touchdown really starts to put this out of reach for Manchester, especially a team who hasn't scored a touchdown yet today, and now maybe without their starting QB and Dante Cheney. So CUC, a touchdown here would be huge. A field goal would be pretty nice as well.
This is a Troy Prattley set.
And Prattley hands it off to Jerron Brown. Brown evades one tackler. Jerron Brown headed for the end zone. He's in the end zone. Touchdown, Cougars!
It's patience. Again, Jerron Brown slowly continuing to work towards the sideline, waiting until a hole opens up, and that hole opens up right on the sideline. Plenty of space. He isn't touched on his way into the end zone.
There was an immediate tackler who kind of breached the line, and Joron Brown just evaded him and kept turning that corner. He had all the green he needed to reach the end zone. Point after from Ryan Auer is up and good. So CUC gets touchdown number 3 of the day. They make it 21-6, as that is exactly what the doctor ordered for CUC. You're watching the replay now on your screen coming out of the timeout. And again, you got to think that timeout was really what led to that play. Coach Hankins able to get exactly what he wanted on the field, and that was all Joron Brown needed for the touchdown.
Again, first, this is a Troy Prattley set piece, so you have the option ability throwing off Manchester. And then again, there it is, that defender you mentioned that Joron Brown's able to just evade and continue just bide his time and wait until there's space over by the sideline. Perfect execution on the option run right there from Troy Prattley and Joron Brown. And that's a big touchdown for CUC. You finally have a 2-possession game, and it's the biggest lead of the day, 15 points for CUC.
The kickoff will be returned by Manchester. A good rush here already, and then brought down at Manchester's own 37-yard line. James Lewis has been the primary returner for the Spartans, and he gets a good gain there. And now the question is, who do we see under center? Dante Cheney has moved away from where he was being treated. And there it is, number 1 in white walking out to the field. Andrew Romero will be now under center for Manchester in the opening game against Westminster. Romero 13 for 23 for 68 yards and an interception as well. And now he's got to play some big football here to get his team not only back in this, but he's going to be the one who would lead them to a comeback if that is in the cards. As Romero puts a couple men in motion, receives the snap, and it is a handoff and a powerful run up the middle for Lewis. He's brought down, but a nice gain for James Lewis out of the backfield.
Cheney's up on the sideline. He's walking up and down the sideline, getting some water, fully under his own power, without much of a limp at all, if any. We may see him come back into the game later. This may be a drive they're putting Romero in because they prepared for a drive with Romero, and to give Cheney a bit more rest. No need to rush him back yet.
And he's going to get a little bit more rest as well as the buzzer hits 0. The third quarter is over, and CUC, what a third quarter it was. 14 points up on the board. Meanwhile, they blank the Spartans, and we will head into the final 15 minutes of regulation. A 21-6 ball game on our hands in favor of your Concordia University Chicago Cougars. So we're going to take a break up here in the booth as well, and when we come back, we will have the final quarter of play here. Cougars leading the Spartans 21-6. We'll have more for you when we're back on the Cougar Sports Network in just a second. Before the fourth quarter commences here, I want to say a thanks to all of our YouTube members, all those special subscribers who have helped out Cougar Athletics throughout this season. Those members are Bish, Chris Birch, Arlette Willis, Brian, Eva, Chuck Jin, Veronica Rezo, Nicole J, Donald Haynes, Stephanie Herrera, Christelle Herrera, Andrea Carroll, Kim Scott, Jake Harris, and David Bowers. So thanks to all those people for all the help, and meanwhile helping out Romero with a big gain.
There's going to be a flag tacked on at the end of that.
And that was Ungst in close pursuit, and we've been hinting at it all day long. Jonathan Ungst, his physical style of play, if it would ever get him in trouble, and maybe a little too much at the end of that play. It was a huge gain for Campbell's. Now we get the call.
That's going to be a face mask. Ungst, he had him fully wrapped up on the sideline, and those were high hands. If it's not a face mask, he'll have him at the horse collar. It's physical, it's aggressive, and it's a bit of frustration because you did just get beat down the sideline. Well, that's the way to respond to going down by 2 scores. Coming into the last quarter of the game, put up a big play, get yourself right down into the red zone. And now the Spartans really going to be looking to finally convert in the red zone, get into the end zone, put 6 up on the board.
Romero looks, and he's going to float this one to the corner of the end zone, and it is off the hands of the intended receiver, Campbell, again. Campbell going up for it. He had Unks draped on top of him, and that just took a doink off the hands of Campbell.
It's almost too predictable at this point from Manchester. Every time they have 1st and goal, they run the goal line fade. Every single time. And it hasn't worked yet today, and they're hoping it'll work at some point. But it's now at the point that the Cougars secondary know what's coming. They play the man coverage. And you're going to have a 1 in a million throw to get past that coverage.
So 2nd and goal as they hand it off to Lewis. Lewis trudging forward, wrapped up. Slows him down, but he keeps plowing forward, and he'll get a good gain out of that. So now it'll be 3rd down and goal as the ball spotted on the 4-yard line.
It's been a while since we've seen Manchester this close to the end zone. And last time they ran a pass play, it didn't work out so well for the Spartans. Their most effective style of play in the red zone has been the rush. It hasn't been very productive, but it's been more productive in the past.
Third down and goal on the 4, and Romero's going to hold on to it, and he's brought down, and I think that was a botched handoff. Romero turned to his right, and Lewis ran to his left. That'd be tough to say that was planned, because I don't know what the advantage would be if that was planned.
You're not really going to fool anyone by faking a handoff to the side no one's at. It may have been a fake handoff either way, but it didn't work. The Cougars even brought extra men on the rush and plenty of defenders on the side. Here's another field goal attempt for Diego Maudig.
Magwell 2 for 3 on the day. And now a jump, and of course every team pointing at each other. We'll have to see. It looked like CUC was first, but could be wrong as the referees have a quick conference, and now we'll get the call. So it is offsides on CUC. That'll bring the ball half the distance to the goal. And now it's decision time for Coach Hunt. And a big decision here as Dante Cheney walking back out. Oh, now he walks back to the sideline. Receives some words from the his coaches. And it will indeed be Cheney coming back out. So not only is this a gutsy play to go on for 4th and a goal from the 4-yard line, but you're doing it with Cheney, who's missed this entire drive with an injury. Cheney, and he's going to float it to the end zone, batted down, and Jonathan Unks comes up huge for CUC.
Oh, and Jonathan Unks, tight physical defense right there. We've been talking about it all day. He plays physical. I am genuinely surprised there was not a flag on that one. Unks had Abdulamir wrapped up in the end zone before the ball got there, arm across the chest. It looked like he was grabbing on the jersey. And the Manchester receivers all clamoring for a flag. They're not going to get it. It didn't work out for the Spartans, but I love that play call either way. You're down 15. You need to get something going. You can't settle for those short field goals again and again and again, especially with this kind of a deficit. Take the gift of the extra yards. 2 yards out. That's a pretty manageable distance.
And now it'll be on the Spartans defense. They got to come up huge here. 13-16 left to go in regulation. 15-point deficit, 2-possession game. And
looks like the yard markers weren't fully set up yet.
it's a windy day here in River Forest. I mean, the wind took care of that yard marker. But anyways, if Manchester can get a stop here, they're going to have excellent field positioning coming out of it, as throwing up something is Bosch, and it is down. No one able to get there. Closest in the vicinity was Devin Bledsoe for CUC, and then Nathan Contreras for Manchester.
Bosch facing a lot of pressure when he throws that. Jalen Grimes getting in there, putting the pressure on Bosch. Actually hit him right after he threw, so that just shows you Bosch was under pressure. He was forced to just get that ball out. Didn't make the quality of throw that he would like to because of that pressure from Grimes. Good defensive front right there.
So CUC able to pick some yards up, and that'll at least work them mostly out of the end zone. Bosch is still set with his feet right on the goal line, as now he takes a couple steps back. Obviously the safeties, the big thing CUC's trying to avoid here. That'd be a massive swing in momentum in favor of Manchester. So that is worst case scenario. CUC trying to keep the drive alive. 3rd and 9. Bosch drops back, and now he has to get rid of it, and it's almost picked off. Good pressure up front, and then Isaiah Hill for Manchester was very close to picking that ball off. And this is exactly what Manchester University needed. A quick 3 and out. CUC still backed up to their own 4. As Dennis Vanderplout is going to have to put some juice in this kick to really back up Manchester and give his own defense some breathing room.
That's how you respond to a failed 4th and goal from the 2.
Snap to Vanderplout. Kick is up and gets airtime. Not much distance on it, as that kick will take Manchester to CUC's 33. I kind of wish Unks got a little bit more on that one, because Manchester is within 35 yards of the end zone now.
He had to short step it. Vanderplow faced immediate pressure from James Lewis. Had no time to get any kind of a step behind it. Just had to get it off the foot, because otherwise you're going down for at best a safety, at worst a touchdown on a blocked punt. So great work from Vanderplow to just get it out and at least start Manchester at the 33, but still not the blocking, not the kind of play you need on a punt like that for CUC.
Less than 12 and a half to go here in regulation. Cheney back under center for Manchester as he lets one fly, and it's off the hands. That was Abdul Amir. That had touchdown written all over it, and Abdul Amir just couldn't reel it in.
It doesn't even matter if Manchester manages to come back and win this game. That's hunting Abdul Amir all the way. You can't script up a better play than that. Beat your man on the inward slant. You nailed the cut perfectly. And that was a perfect pass from Shaney too, even under pressure, right in the breadbasket. And Abdul Amir unable to reel it in, and he's been so secure all day today.
So Manchester had a wide open touchdown, and instead they have to go for 2nd and 10. Here's Lewis. Lewis working with some space, gets a good block there. James Lewis still on his feet. He is still moving within the 10-yard line. James Lewis has been the most explosive player on this Manchester team. Only 39 yards rushing before that play. He had 58 yards receiving, though. And he'll get at least to 50 yards rushing after that last rush. James Lewis, we've seen his aggression maybe bite him a little bit in terms of he had that unsportsmanlike that kind of killed a drive back in the 2nd. But other than that, he has been the most consistent playmaker for Manchester.
Look where we're back. We're in the red zone again. Manchester 2 for 5 on red zone opportunities today.
As Cheney has to get rid of it. And Cougars are begging for grounding.
And it looks like
there it is. There's the flag as Chase Hankins gives the officiating crew a thumbs up. Cheney was immediately pressured and just drilled that ball into the ground. Nobody in the vicinity. There's the call from the head ref, and we are moving back this line of scrimmage.
Offensive line not doing enough right there.
And for Cheney, as he's going to head off the field. Again, Cheney had to come out of the game for a while, and now he's heading back off. That's the other kicker about that play is you just let your quarterback, who's already been banged up today, you just let him take a massive hit, even though, he got rid of it, quotations mark, for the grounding call. He's still got a massive hit laid on him, and now it's going to take him out and put Romero back in the game. Romero, and he's going to loft this one towards the end zone, and that's going to be PI. That had pass interference written all over it.
And that's an uncatchable ball. That is, you can't make that kind of mistake.
Josh Smith committing the no-no for CUC, a freshman out of Chicago.
He got beat at the goal line, but that still would have been an incredibly tough catch to make. And instead of trying to get back on it or accepting that he got beat, he just grabbed the shoulders. You've taken what was going to be a very, very broken possession of Manchester that could have been a touchdown and gifted them a brand new possession just 2 yards out.
And an interesting note about the divide between Cheney and Romero is offensive coordinator Meckler for Manchester. He seems a little bit more willing to go downfield with Romero, and Romero's been hitting those targets a little bit more consistently and drawing those PI calls as well. Cheney brings a lot to the table in his own play, but maybe that's where they like using Romero is you're a bit more of our throwing quarterback. You're going to go downfield rather than try and use your legs or swing it out to the wing, which we saw Cheney do a lot. And now Manchester on the 2. First down and goal as the referees are having some words now. All the players are set. Someone might want to tell them they can take a break here. As now all the linemen on both ends of the ball get up. Interested to see what the referees are talking about as Coach Hankins is very much on the field.
This is a pretty cut and dry. Ball starts at the 2 on the right hash mark. It doesn't look like it's a clock discussion.
As Coach Hankins will now gather some of his players toward the sideline. And both groups of players will head towards their respective sidelines as the referees still having a discussion. I would like to know what this is about. And a timeout has been called as well, as now the head ref is having a discussion with Coach Hankins of CUC. This is a turning point in this game. I mean, this is through all the red zone drives that Manchester has had, this is arguably their best chance right now. You have a first down within the 2-yard line. You get 2 rushes of a yard each. You're in the end zone. And if they can do that, they are back in this game one possession when their defense has been playing really well as of late. For CUC, if you can somehow pull off a stop here, even limit it to a field goal, that's going to do wonders for your confidence moving through the rest of this fourth quarter where Manchester needs 15 points to get back in this game.
But Manchester's failed from this position before. We had a moment in the first half, first and goal from the 2 after that personal foul on the field goal attempt, and they were forced to settle for a field goal. Manchester has thrown. It's actually not from the 2. It looks like it's going to be placed at the 7. That's what the discussion was about.
So whatever Coach Hankins was arguing, which we still would need some clarity on, it seems to have worked because this ball is backed up now to the 7-yard line, and Coach Hankins giving his defense a little bit more breathing room here. Snap to Romero. He's going to throw it, and it's brought in and dropped by Skinner. Skinner had some hands on it, just couldn't keep a hold of it.
That is some great defense in the middle from the nickel, Jordan Lacey. Right on it, perfectly timed to after the ball gets to the receiver. Just getting his hand in there and breaking up that pass. Cannot ask for better coverage from the middle of the field.
Second and goal from the 7 for Manchester. 11:20 left to go here in the game. In regulation, at least, as Romero will look towards the end zone and find a receiver. Touchdown, Manchester. Darrell Moss Jr. bringing it in. And the Spartans have struck in the end zone for the first time today. And now we got a ball game on our hands.
That's a conversion needed. Jonathan Unkston coverage finally gets beat. He had his eyes on the receiver. He turns around. He could have swatted that one down maybe, but Manchester's not complaining.
And that's been the biggest flaw we've seen with Unks as he's being treated by the training staff now is just he hasn't been turning his head. And that is, that's kind of defensive back fundamentals 101 is you got to keep your head towards the ball as the field goal is good. So Manchester now down by just 8. But, yeah, if you're Unks, you got to turn around. You got to be looking at that ball because, yeah, like you said, Jonathan, if he turned around, if he got his eyes on that ball, he'd have a good chance at swatting that one down. And instead, he keeps his eyes locked on the defender. And Manchester strikes in the end zone. A shot from Romero to Darrell Moss Jr. And because of it, Cougars now have to play some protective football. 11:15 left to go in regulation. They're on top of Manchester, 21-13.
Back to a one-possession game. Manchester, that's a massive sigh of relief for them because that drive looked really, really bad at some points. You got scared. You had that 10-yard sack / intentional grounding that dropped you from the 10 all the way back to the 20. Then you get a gift, DPI. You move up. You think you're going to be at the 2. No, you're at the 7. Finally make it work. Big play from Manchester, really bringing you back to life, the entire sideline now back into this game.
So it will be Estrada now for the kickoff of Manchester. And CUC, this is that drive where you just want time. You want a long possession, waste as much time as humanly possible as Bubba Henson will try to attempt the return here. Henson stops, starts, and goes again, and now is brought down. Bubba Henson, a little stop-and-go football. He's eventually brought down by number 40 in a white jersey. That is Ethan Skinner, a tight end, working some coverage on the special teams. And this is where we're going to want to see Joron Brown come to life. They send out Bubba Henson now, but I would not be surprised to see a lot of Joron Brown on this drive because that's what he does best. He gets yards. He just keeps that clock moving. As I think CUC is just going to attempt to run this clock down as much as they can. They hand off to Henson. Henson sidestep here, sidestep there is brought down. Be a gain of roughly 5 for CUC.
It's time to chew the clock. CUC, they've had some long drives in this game already. Whenever they put together a solid drive, they chew off a ton of clock. 5-6 minutes, you'll take that here, especially being up by one possession. Ideally, what you do here, you get a nice long drive that ends in the end zone.
10:24 left to go here in regulation. Bubba Henson still the running back in the backfield next to Colton Bosch. Bosch will hand it back off to Henson. Henson using a blocker, sprints forward and tumbles forward for a first down. Bubba Henson. Again, not the biggest guy in the field, listed at 5'8", 155, but he uses his blockers well. His side-to-side movement is really sharp. He's able to sidestep those defenders, and he picks up a big first down for CUC. They'll maintain possession, and that clock keeps on a-rolling.
We talked about Joron Brown excelling with his patience. Bubba Henson is as well. It's important to be quick, it's important to be fast, but also knowing when to be quick and when to be fast.
They keep Henson out there. He's lined up to the left of Bosch. Bosch once again to Henson. They're just going to keep feeding what's working. It doesn't work here, however. Jalen Grimes. Big play in the backfield, and that'll back up the Cougars. Jalen Grimes.
We've seen this as a pattern with this Cougars offense versus Manchester's defense. Once they get the run working, the Cougars will run the ball until the Spartans stop it. And the Spartans will, usually on that third or fourth play, figure out how to stop it.
And they're going to keep Henson back there. We have not seen Jerron Brown at all this drive. He is on the sideline with his helmet on. He's not being treated for an injury, so he seems to be available. As here's a handoff to Henry Jones. Jones turns the corner, keeps moving out of bounds. But good rush there for Henry Jones, and that's how the Cougars like using him. You mentioned it, Jonathan. He's a record holder on this school's track and field team. He's got that speed, so CUC is just going to keep feeding him on those sweeps, get him across, get him around the corner, and he's going to pick up yards for you every time.
That's what the jet sweep's for, pick up some easy yards. Instead of a 3rd and long, you now have 3rd and mid, and that's a lot more doable.
CUC has struggled on 3rd down all day, though. 2 for 9 on 3rd down conversions. Manchester hasn't fared much better. They're 3 for 11. As whistles blow and CUC calling a timeout here, and it will be their final timeout. And that is a little concerning for the Cougars. I mean, you got 8.5 to go in regulation. You have a Manchester team who looks like they're starting to piece it together. They're getting better drives. Their defense is playing really well right now. And now for CUC, you don't have a timeout. You have the 2-minute warning, which we talked about earlier, could come in handy. But other than that, you just hope that for CUC, they just add points here to make sure that no timeouts left doesn't come back to bite them.
Exactly. And on another side note, with regard to the Cougars' defense, whenever they have to come back out, Jonathan Unks has been carted to the locker room, so we likely won't be seeing him return this game.
Yeah, Unks kind of came out awkwardly after he gave up the touchdown.
It's kind of holding his side.
And we saw he was being treated earlier. He went back in the game. Manchester scored the TD right in Unks' face, and then he just kind of hobbled off the sideline, fell right down by the end zone. And as Jonathan said, he's been taken to the locker room as Colton Bosch will drop back, step through the pocket, and that ball is almost picked off. Oh, my goodness. Javion Davis got 2 hands on it.
And that should have been picked off. Read that route perfectly. Colton Bosch telegraphed the throw.
Davis got in front of the man he was defending.
Should have been picked off. You need that pick. If you're down 1 possession, you get that pick. You're already on the offensive side of the field. Momentum is entirely in your favor.
And on top of that, Davis really didn't have anyone in front of him. There's a good chance that he could have taken that to the house and potentially tied this game up with an 8-point conversion. So you love the knockdown. You love that you're forcing a punt here, but if you're Javion Davis, if you are Manchester's defensive unit, defensive coaching, you want that one back.
The saving grace for Manchester is that Dennis Vanderplow shanked the punt, and they'll be starting around the 40-yard line, which you do not want if you're punting from the other 40-yard line.
Yeah, you got to get that at least within the 30. Ideally, you can work that into the back 20 with a good bounce, and instead CUC, who they've had some trouble punting the last couple seasons. You know, they don't really have that consistent punter. And, you know, that is hard to find at that Division III level. If you're a good punter, we all know where you're going. You're going up to those D1 schools. But still, you need more production out of that punting unit. It's, you know, it can be understated how good a punter can change the tide as James Lewis finds open space. James Lewis, this is a house call. Manchester, in the blink of an eye, they strike and they can tie this game up with a 2-point conversion.
The blocking perfect for this Manchester Austin line that's been so inconsistent today. They got James Lewis to hold to the side. He found a path all the way through the middle defenders, and the Cougars were only playing 1 man deep, and that 1 man was playing off to the near side of the field. There was no one deep once James Lewis got past the linebackers. That is home free for the running back, who has had a massive day so far, and it's only gotten bigger.
We mentioned it. Lewis has been the most explosive player for Manchester, and that is the best. That is the epitome of it. A 60-yard house call, and Manchester was going for the 2-point conversion. Flags fly. And now a delay of game, so that hurts you a little bit.
So now, do you go for the 2-point conversion from 7 yards out?
I think you have to at this point. I mean, points have been hard to come by for Manchester. They are getting better. Their offense is looking better and better. And obviously, you don't want it to happen because of injury. But ever since Romero came in, this offense has looked pretty well oiled, as now the units are going to change, and it will be the kicking unit. They have less than 7 seconds. They got to get this kick off now. 3, 2, and 1. And that'll not be in time. That's delay a game. And now the refs blow the whistle. A very late call. We said it first. The fans then called it out. And then the referees blew the whistle.
So not only if you go for 2 or you from the 12, you're now kicking from the 12. And Diego Mogil, he's not a horrible kicker. He's shown some good kicks, but he's also inconsistent. We've seen some poor kicks from him today as well. And this would be the longest field goal / PAT that he's made all day.
Now, luckily for Manchester, you're still a field goal away from taking the lead, extra point or not. As Mogul, the kick is up. It's a line drive, and it is good. Not pretty, but it is good.
That's about as line drive of kick as you can get. That is a very, very important kick right there, though. You miss that, and then the Cougars don't go down and get 7 of their own. 2-possession game. Not a great look. Now if the Cougars go down and get a touchdown, it's still an 8-point game. It's still 1 possession, provided that the Cougars don't go for 2 themselves.
As we see the replay of the Lewis touchdown, I mean, this feels like it's been coming all day, Jonathan. James Lewis has been very explosive. He's obviously a very aggressive player, and he finally got that break around the corner he needed, and CUC just unable to catch up to him, and just a house call for James Lewis.
This Manchester offense, they've honestly shown more explosive capability than this Cougars offense. They've had some big plays. You go all the way back to the start. Cameron Hovey busting down a 50-yard run to open the game. This team has shown the explosiveness, but just now have they been able to actually get the explosiveness into the end zone, and they couldn't ask for it at a better time. They've turned this from a game that was just falling entirely CUC's way into what looks to be a bit of a thriller here in the late fourth quarter.
8:07 left to go. Plenty of time for both of these squads, as it's a short kick from Estrada. Henson, sidestep. Henson trying to work around some blockers, runs into his own man, and now he's brought down past the 30-yard line.
Just about every single Manchester Spartans kickoff team member getting on top of Henson at the end there.
8 minutes remain in regulation, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but this is the drive that the Cougars need to utilize. Joran Brown. This is a player, as we see him walk out there, who is able to get yardage just by plowing up the middle. Just keep chipping away. Get those first downs every 3 plays. You're going to keep wasting that clock away. With 8 minutes left, it's very possible a good long drive here could seal the deal for CUC. They hand it off to Brown. He waits a second, and now he'll rush up. He'll get a yard, if that.
But that's not going to work in the long term. You need at least 1 first down here. You don't want to give this ball back to Manchester. There's more than 5 minutes left on the clock. The Cougars, you're going to want to run the ball with Joran Brown. He's a great running back. And running, obviously, you chew the clock, but you need to get that first down. You need to find a way to get the offense working, period, at a minimum this drive.
7.5 to go. CUC utilizing as much time as possible. 13 on the play clock. And Colton Bosch designed QB run up the middle, and there's Jalen Grimes. And we haven't really talked about Jalen Grimes a lot today, and that might be a disservice to the caliber of player he is. First team all HCAC last year. I mean, Grimes is that main force up on the front line, playing defensive end for Manchester.
He's had a remarkable day. He's been a game wrecker. 1 sack, 3.5 tackles for loss in a single game. Jalen Grimes has put this Manchester front line on his back so far today.
And Basha throwing, it's tipped and it's picked off. Manchester's defense has flipped a switch, and now they capitalize that. with a big-time interception, Nathan Contreras.
You hate to say it, but it starts to feel like the wheels are starting to fall off the bus for the Cougars here. Back-to-back rough defensive drives, and then right there, your wide receiver one, Jace Levy, slips when he's making the pass and bats it up in the air.
As you see the replay on your screen here, yeah, I mean, there's nothing more dangerous in the passing game than tips from the offensive players.
And if you look, this isn't going to be a horrible pass from Colton Bosch. It's not necessarily perfect, but it's not bad. Going to go middle of the field.
It's just tipped across the middle. Nathan Contreras comes in to make the grab, as Romero looks downfield again, and Skinner just misses it. Romero underthrew Ethan Skinner, and Skinner had to put on the brakes, trying to reach out for it, and it slips through his fingertips, so an incompletion for Romero.
Underthrown massively. That one comes courtesy of your Concordia Chicago defensive front, breaking through to the quarterback for the first time since that forced intentional grouting on Dante Cheney a couple drives ago. If Romero is able to get that play off, though, that's a touchdown. Skinner beat his man. He had him beat coming inside, coming across the field.
Romero's got a man on each side, and it's a handoff to Lewis. Lewis trying to turn the corner again. James Lewis, will he do it again? James Lewis is finally dragged out of bounds. I think everyone just saw deja vu flash before their eyes. James Lewis getting around that corner. Luckily, CUC able to eventually converge and drag him out, but James Lewis has been a difference maker so far this game for Manchester. He largely kept them in it in the first half with the amount of yards he was able to pick up, and now he is dead set on getting his team a comeback victory here. Manchester, ball on the 22 of CUC's half. Throw is easily received by Moss. Moss just has to trot into the end zone. And Manchester turning defense to offense. And they are now on top of this game 26-21. A cut across the middle from Darrell Moss Jr. And he had too much space to work with. Able to bring that into the end zone, and Manchester, they're up by 5 now. And they're going to bring out the kicking team.
So they'll go up by 6. There's not too much value in going up by 6.
You almost just want to say go for 2, because if you make it, you're up by 7, a full touchdown and a PAT. If you miss it, you're only up by 5, which is no worse than 6. And now the whistle blows. They're saying the play clock delay a game on Manchester. So this kicking unit has had some difficulties for Manchester so far today. But yeah, I was very sure that they were going to bring out the 2-point conversion unit, try to make this a 7-point game, because like you said, Jonathan, you're up by 5, you're up by 6, doesn't really matter. Cougars need a touchdown either way.
And Ryan Auer is a very good extra point kicker for CUC.
As the kick is up, and it is good, so it will be a 6-point game for Manchester. And now the pressure's on CUC, Jonathan, and the good thing is, as you see the replay of the Manchester touchdown.
Watch the secondary, watch the middle. It's Marvin Rushing who's been able to make the open field tackle, and exclusively Marvin Rushing, because there is nobody else in the middle of the field. Everyone on either side here. There's Moss. There's no one but Marvin Rushing, and he has to come in from the side. Just a breakdown of defense in the middle from the Cougars, and if you saw before that extra point, Marvin Rushing and some other members of the secondary, the linebackers, they were animated in the end zone where they were talking with each other. They were trying to figure out what's going on, who missed what assignment there, and why was it so easy for Moss to make it from the 10-yard line to the end zone.
So for CUC, kind of a dual-sided coin here. On one end, you need a touchdown. That's going to be tough to do, especially the way this Manchester D has come to life late in this game. On the other side, that 6:10 mark's kind of perfect for a nice long drive to end this game. So CUC They need the touchdown, but if they can use the clock well, and obviously scoring a touchdown is easier said than done, but if they can use the clock well, they can take a lead with not much time left at all, as Henson will return it. Booba Henson slides down, and he's brought down. Great coverage there from the kicking team by Manchester, bringing down Henson within the 25-yard line. Anytime you could stop that kickoff from returning past the 25-yard line, because that's where the touchback is, that's a good day for you and your kicking team.
This team really needs to string together a couple plays really quick. On Concordia Chicago's end, the offensive production has not been there the last couple drives. They've been struggling to even get it to midfield. You need a couple plays, especially coming off of an interception, to just get that confidence back, that belief that you are in control of this drive.
Snap to Colton Bosch. Bosch will just take it up the middle himself. Bosch, QB runs, stiff arms a man to the ground before he runs out. Now it's Bosch taking down Victoriano. Didn't really result in much extra yardage, but still cool.
That's a good, smart play from Colton Bosch there. Pick up 4 yards and then get out of bounds and stop the clock.
Bosch now, snap. Throws across the middle, and good catch there.
Jace Levi,
he had Javion Davis literally wrapped around his back, and Levi, like we said, so good at everything. He's going to make those tough catches if you put it in his numbers, which Colton Bosch did right there.
And that is a massive confidence boost for Jace Levi. He's the receiver who tipped that ball up that was intercepted this last Cougars offensive drive. He's the one who really made that mistake that led to the Cougars losing the lead. And now you've made a contested catch. You got a first down for the Cougars.
And Bosch will find Devin Bledsoe now. Bledsoe still on his feet, eventually dragged to the ground. He had a man in Shane Hagan wrapped up all around his legs. And Bledsoe trying to make something work, but eventually falls victim to the defense. And it'll be 2nd and 5 now for the CUC offense.
Now, I mentioned getting some consecutive plays in a row for this team. That's 3 chunk plays in a row. And that's what you need to put together a nice, long drive here in the 4th quarter.
And Bosch looking, and he's got to move. Colton Bosch gets a first down. Colton Bosch still on his feet, dragged down. But good play there for Colton Bosch. Almost accidental, it looked like. Colton Bosch, still in his throwing motion, just kind of kept hedging upfield until he realized, oh, I'm past the line of scrimmage. I got to go. And he did that. He gets a big first down there. Colton Bosch using his legs to a big advantage here in this drive.
We've seen Bosch scramble twice this drive, and that's as much as he scrambled the entire rest of the game. Bosch with a big opportunity here to really show how clutch he can be in that quarterback position.
And they let Joran Brown carry. He'll get a yard plus out of it. Manchester on their roster does not have a defensive coordinator listed. So you have to assume Van Hunt doing a lot of that duties for his team. He was a co-offensive and defensive coordinator during his 7 years with Allegheny College. So have to assume that Coach Hunt taking over those responsibilities. A low throw, and they're going to say no reception. That was Levi trying to bring it in. So it'll be 3rd down. CUC on 3rd downs this game. 2 for 11. It's been a thorn in their side this whole game. They need one here.
At the very least, get close to the first down marker. You're in 4th down territory here for the Cougars.
And there's a jump from the defensive line. Free play for Colton Bosch. He looks downfield. Devin Bledsoe brings it in! Was he out of bounds? The referees,
I would almost confidently say,
and now a flag and a penalty on top of it. It's going to be a good catch and some extra yardage. Oh my goodness, Devin Bledsoe.
We talked about opportunities a lot earlier in this game, and the Cougars opportunity after opportunity. Get your first free play of the day and get your first shot play of the day. Get some bonus yards on top of that.
So the referees are going to have to clean this one up. So offsides by the defense is declined. And then pass interference, also on the defense declined because, remember, college pass interference is different. NFL, it puts the ball on the spot of the foul. College, it's just a standard yards gained penalty. So the Cougars, obviously, are going to get a lot more yards out of that Devin Bledsoe reception than a pass interference call. So 3-11 CUC now knocking on the door. 1st and goal on the 5. Devin Bledsoe, oh my goodness, what a catch.
Talk about a momentum switch. Just listen to this stadium now. The life had been sucked out of you after that Manchester comeback, and now this sideline is back into this game.
And again, it was a question, was he in bounds? And Devin Bledsoe able to toe that line as here's a rush. Joran Brown cuts through the defense, and now he'll get brought down. A flag thrown in the backfield.
If I had to guess, that's probably going to be a holding against the Cougars, just based from where that flag came from. And, yep, that's a holding against CUC. Not great. Going to drop you back 10 yards. That'll be 1st and goal from the 15 now for CUC. Still got to get into the end zone here. You've got 4 plays to do it.
Say 2:57 left. So any kind of turnover here for CUC, whether it be on downs or fumble, interception, or anything, likely spells the end of the game. And like Jonathan said, field goal, it's too late for a field goal. If you kick a field goal and then kick the ball off and you don't get an onside kick, that Manchester can run this game out, especially with CUC. 0 timeouts left in Coach Hankins' pockets. So 1st and goal from the 15. They'll let Joran Brown take it, and he'll get a good gain up the middle. Joran Brown.
6-yard gain. 2nd and goal, 3 plays to go. You'll take that. This is more manageable than a 15 yards out from the end zone.
So 2nd and goal from the 9. So, you need to average 3 yards a play here. Joran Brown, as long as the offensive line gives him those holes, he should be able to pick up those 3 yards every play. As they hand it back to Brown. Brown now rushing up the middle, jumps up. He's brought down again. And once more, another good gain from Joran Brown will just keep moving the marker. We'll see where they place. It's on the 4.
And now, that what actually looks to be the 3, I would say Manchester, who is now going to call their first timeout of the half. Coming out of this, Joran Brown's just run it twice. You have to stack the box here. Yeah, the Cougars might throw it either way, but you can't risk them just giving it to Joran Brown again and picking up an easy touchdown. You're going to see the box stacked here from Manchester. They're going to do everything they can to stop the run. Jalen Grimes, he's had a big day so far on that defensive front for the Spartans. The only defensive player on that defensive front who isn't a freshman. He's bringing the veteran presence, and it's showing in the way that front line is played today. This is the time for him to really come up big and put an exclamation mark on the day, or maybe it's an opportunity for another one of those players on the defensive front to come through and get their big moment of the day. But on the Cougars' end, really 3 yards, short pass, or another run with Joran Brown.
Jalen Grimes, 8 total tackles. 4 of them were solo and a sack, and 2.5 tackles for loss as well as a QB hit. 3rd down and goal from the 3. Colton Bosch under center, Joran Brown to his left. The crowd is getting loud here at Concordia Stadium. Bosch sending a signal out to the receiver on his right. Now he gets set. Takes the snap, and it will be a pass. And Bosch thrown. Touchdown! Cougars! Jace Levi with the hat trick touchdown. And CUC back on top here at Concordia Stadium.
Again, Jace Levi. Wait a bit after the snap, get in there right on the goal line. Nice little cut in, nice little curl. Bring it in for the touchdown.
27-27. So now it comes down to the PAT. If our hits it, CUC takes the lead. The kick is up, and it is good. CUC, now they take the lead, 28-27. As you can see the replay on the screen now. And Jace Levi.
And again, look at that formation on the left. That's bunches. They're together there, and Jace Levi is going to take advantage of that, just slip under the radar long enough to be open right on the goal line.
Yeah, that's the second touchdown reception we've seen from Jace Levi that looks like that, as he makes it 3 on the day. But I don't know if we can breathe yet here. 157. Manchester has to get within field goal range. The question is, though, what is field goal range for Diego Mogul, a guy who we've seen struggle at times? I mean, he's got so far on the day. He has 3 field goals, or excuse me, 3 field goal attempts, 19, 18, and 17. The 18 and 17 yarders were the good field goals from Mogul. As this ball will be grabbed by James Lewis. Lewis trying to cut through the bodies, and he's eventually brought down, wrapping Lewis around the legs.
70 yards to go. To the end zone. I'd have to say field goal range for Mogul. We haven't seen him kick. We've seen his longest PAT of the day be a 25-yarder, 27-yarder. I would have to say you need to get to the red zone for Diego Mogul to get this one between the uprights. With the explosiveness we've seen out of this Spartans offense recently, that is very doable.
And they do have all 3 of their timeouts left up on the board. They don't have the 2-minute warning. 1:48 left to go here, but they have plenty of time. As Concordia Stadium is loud right now. James Lewis, here he goes. Tries to miss a couple defenders and will really only get 3 yards out of that.
But he's down in bounds, and that's key right there. Either you force a quick play here or you force the Spartans to call a timeout.
The clock's still running as we hit 90 seconds left to go. It is based a minute 47 drill for Manchester. As here's Romero. Romero gets pressured. The throw is into no man's land. The closest receiver for Romero was Darrell Moss Jr., who on the day does have a pair of touchdowns.
The offensive line just breaking down completely once again. At least the clock stops there. That's your saving grace. Incomplete pass, clock stopped.
1:13 to go.
This is 4th down territory. If they don't get this, they will go for it.
Romero takes the low snap, and he will loft this one downfield, and it is a clean defensive play for CUC.
Abdul Amir wants a flag. Even if he wasn't held up by the defender, I don't think he's getting to that one either way. Romero chucked that ball downfield.
That was Gino Musso in coverage for CUC. Manchester still has all 3 timeouts, which might come into effect if CUC gets the ball here. Manchester would basically need a 3 and out. See what happens here. 4th down. This could be it for Manchester. Romero looking downfield, lofts it, and it is caught by Abdul Amir. A huge 4th down conversion for the Spartans.
And this is actually another rule change we have for college football entering this season. The clock doesn't stop after a 1st down when you move the chains anymore. At the D3 level, or maybe it does. I thought I read that. Either way.
The referee say the old rule was basically the clock stops while they reset the chains. and then the refs will give you the signal to start the clock again.
It looks like they just stopped the clock anyways.
It is a 1:06 marker. Now the referee says to get the clock going. And there it goes. Ball was at the 50-yard line. Ramiro, and that ball is out of reach of Abdul Amir.
This pass from Ramiro, again, saving grace. Clock stops.
Yeah, still plenty of time here for Manchester. You have 57 seconds. You have 3 timeouts. This game is nowhere near over. CUC, they're going to need a stop here.
The most interesting part, though, is play calling logic. You throw the ball in this scenario, but the best part of their offense the last few drives was the run with James Lewis. But you can't use that here. You can't risk that clock running on a squashed run.
Yeah, you can maybe try it once just because you have all 3 timeouts to see if he breaks out another big rush. But they will throw it here. Romero lofts it downfield. It's Skinner, and Skinner brings it in. Ethan Skinner, plays some grown man football and catches that while Isaac Young was in tight coverage.
I mean, again, physical coverage from the CUC secondary. Again, you could almost make an argument for DPI there. This team plays physical coverage, and what's incredible is Manchester's learning how to beat it.
Less than 50 to go. Now we're getting towards field goal range for Mogul. CUC brings the rush, and that is right over the head. And now a flag is thrown. Oh, no, that is not good for CUC.
And that's from the near sideline.
The refs will talk it over, and the ref throwing.
And they're moving it back to where the play was. If that does go against CUC, I don't know how I feel about that. That was not a catchable ball. That was well out of the reach of Abdul Amir, and that is going to go against the Cougars.
Yeah, that is for a reffing staff who has been, the term letting the boys play most of this game. They've allowed that physicality in the defensive backfield for a lot of this game. And
even compared to the play on Ethan Skinner right before that.
Romero across the middle, and Ethan Skinner drops the ball. Good breakup there by Isaac Young. Maybe a little bit of ball don't lie.
This is field goal range for Diego Mogil, though. This would be about a 26, 27-yard attempt for the freshman. We've seen him make a PAT from actually 1 yard further out than this. And I would almost say, if you're Manchester, run the ball here with James Lewis. CUC doesn't have the timeouts. You can run the ball, get some extra distance, and wind that clock down. Yeah,
it's just about how much confidence as they do just that. Lewis breaks a tackle and now is brought down, and I think they're going to just, like Jonathan, like you said, they could wind this clock down to 1 second if they wanted, and now the clock will stop, maybe mercifully for CUC. A Spartan on the ground.
I think so. Obviously, after this stop clock,
this is
favor Manchester. They have all the cards in the deck right now, and it's going to come down likely to a Diego Mogil field goal. Again, though, I think we're going to see a James Lewis run right here on 3rd down.
If you're CUC, as I'm trying to see who the Spartan on the ground is. I don't believe
it's not James Lewis.
I know, but I see Lewis in the huddle, so it's not James Lewis.
It's not Romero.
It's number 7, James Thomas, as now he trots off and joins the team huddle. So I'm just banged up for a play. Looks like the wide receiver is good to go for Manchester. Yeah, if you're CUC, you are ripping, you are tearing, you are punching, you are doing everything you can to get that ball loose if James Lewis is the rusher on this next play.
And you don't have a timeout. You don't have a timeout to leave even 20 seconds on the clock here. Manchester, they're going to run the ball. They're going to get taken down, and they're going to run this clock down to 4 or 5 seconds. So this is going to be a run up the gut from James Lewis. No sense in trying to get to the outside. You want to set it up right in the middle of the field for Diego Mogil.
Yeah, and for CUC, in addition to what I said about trying to get a strip, you are busting through that line. You are trying to push Lewis back and at least make this a little bit harder for Diego Mogul.
And there you see no one playing deep. You're stacking the box here.
And Ramiro will throw it. Could this bite the Cougars off the hands of Abdul Amir? Oh, my goodness.
I thought about that happening. If they're going to stack the box, if they're going to send everyone,
yeah, I had the
pass.
exact same thought, Jonathan, of
and that was catchable too.
Ramiro just trying to catch the CUC defense off guard. And he almost did. If that ball was a little lower or more lofted in, Abdul Amir might bring it in. But this is it. Diego Mulgill makes this. The game likely goes to Manchester. CUC gets a stop or he misses. CUC game. The snap and the kick. It is up and it is no good. Oh my goodness!
And Diego Mulgill started the day with a missed PAT. He's going to end it with a missed PAT, with a missed field goal. Both of those missed field goals, 2 missed field goals on the day. Start and end for the freshman. This team now trails by 1. They have 2 timeouts.
Yeah, but CUC,
they can run this out.
You line up in victory formation, you take a couple knees. That is all she wrote.
You'd need 3 timeouts. The Cougars can run this clock out. 1-point gap, and there's going to be questions. There's going to be a question for head coach Van Hunt after this game. Someone's going to ask him, why didn't you go for 2 after your last touchdown?
And Coach Van Hunt's not even going to try to play the timeout game here. He knows that would be a battle he would lose, and so he's just throwing it in now, saying, yep, that is it. And the clock hits 0. CUC football, by the skin, on the skin of their teeth, survive this one. A last-second missed field goal from Diego Mulgill, and the Cougars walk away with a 28-27 win. I'm going to need a couple minutes to just process this one, Jonathan. What a game. Football is back in River Forest, baby. A thriller to the very last second.
You want to go back to the third quarter when the Cougars scored 2 straight touchdowns and it felt like this game was entirely in the Cougars' favor? Total script flip in that fourth quarter. Absolute thriller. Manchester putting up a fight right to the end.
So, wow. CUC. I mean, I know, Jonathan, you weren't on the call. The last time CUC won a game was on this field against Eureka on a last-second missed field goal. Maybe not the way you want to win games, but CUC is going to take that all day.
And even better, it was by the score of 28-27, too.
Oh, my goodness.
It's deja vu out here for the Cougars.
And luckily for the Cougars, they are on the right side of that deja vu. They pick up win number 1 of the year, win number 1 here at Concordia University Chicago, and win number 1 for head coach Chase Hankins, as I see the Gatorade tub making its way out onto the field. I'm trying to get an eye on Coach Chase Hankins, as I think the players are. As I see him, I think the players see him too. As you can see it on your screen. Excellent work by our camera people today to get this coverage. And there it is. Coach Chase Hankins, congrats on your first win as head coach of CUC football. It wasn't pretty, but it works. Chase Hankins now 1-1 on the season and in his career as head coach. Jonathan, let's try to break this one down now. Let's go over some of the stats. I think let's just look at what's on the paper, because that is for sure factual. In terms of quarterback play, Colton Bosch leading the way for CUC, 17 for 29, 194 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception thrown, 59% completion rate. Meanwhile, for Manchester, dual quarterbacks, Dante Cheney, 11 for 29, 38% completion, 251 yards, and then Romero coming in for relief, Andrew Romero, 6 for 15, 40% completion, 115 yards, and a pair of touchdowns. He is a big reason that Manchester got right back in this game. In terms of rushing, big game out of James Lewis, 8 attempts, 146 yards, capitalized by a 60-yard house call for his lone touchdown of the day. Meanwhile, for the Cougars, getting good production out of Joran Brown, 26 rushes for 128 yards and a touchdown. And Bubba Henson, he should be shouted out as well, 8 rushes for 43 yards, just picking up some necessary yardage for CUC. On the receiving front, big games for Manchester out of Abdul Amir, 71 yards across 3 catches, including a 45-yard catch. And then Cameron Hovey, 4 receptions, 111 yards, most of those after the catch. His longest was a 62, 2 touchdown receptions by Darrell Moss Jr. And for CUC, big games out of Jace Levi, 7 receptions, a hat trick in the touchdown category with 375 total yards. And Devin Bledsoe might have had the biggest catch of the game that also drew a pass interference call, 6 total receptions for 86 yards. And just to highlight some of the defensive players from this game, CUC led in total tackles by Isaac Young. He had 7, including 4 solos. That was the lead for solo tackles. Brandon Montfort had 4 solo tackles as well. 1 tackle for loss from Marvin Rushing. That was the lead in that category. And 4 breakups for Isaac Young. What a day for Isaac Young on the defensive end. As for Manchester, defensive highlight might just be number 4. That is Javion Davis. 14 total tackles, 6 of which were solo. Had 2 breakups as well. Most solo tackles belongs to Davis. Sack 1.5 by Colvin Gilbert. And then tackles for loss was Jalen Grimes, 2.5 for the senior reigning of all first team, all HCAC member. All right, Jonathan. Let's get our final thoughts before we start wrapping this part of the broadcast up. CUC escaping by the slimmest of margins. Let's get your main takeaway here after today's home opening win.
I think it's the resilience of this Cougars team, and we're going to go to the key before the game, finishing. We saw against Greenville, they kind of fell apart in the second half. That's what led to that massive gap. And it started to look like that's what was going to happen here. But they come in clutch in the fourth quarter, pick up that win in the fourth quarter. This is the first time the Cougars have won their home opener since 2018, a win over Beloit College. It's been a minute since the Cougars have won the season opener in River Forest, and it is an intense one here. Full credit to Manchester and their resilience as well. Massive comeback in the fourth quarter for Manchester, falling short by just 1 point. But again, the Cougars able to bounce back after falling into a hole in the fourth quarter.
Well, that'll do it for this portion of the broadcast. CUC back in action next Saturday right here in River Forest for the conference opener, taking on Lakeland College. 1 p.m. start time for that game. That can be found on CUC Sports. The broadcast can be found, and coverage in general can be found on our website, cucougars.com. But I do want to say special thanks to everybody making this first football game possible for... want to say thanks to everybody making this first football game possible on the Cougar Sports Network. Our spotters for the day, Tyler Dorsch and Dave Dimley and Ashley Schroll, working participation. Camera people for the day, Jess Gang, Lily Southern, and Courtney Schneider. Producers were Abby Kulik and Alan Mateo, Saba Miller, taking photos down on the field. And the return of our former assistant sports information director, Sydney Palaskis-Laher, back in the Cougar booth, working the stats. So happy to have her back helping out as well. Jonathan Shear was on the call with me all day, and we're under the direction of our graduate assistant, Sydney Lloyd, our assistant sports information director, Corey Welch, and our sports information directors, Kayla McLeod. But don't go anywhere just yet. We have a post-game interview with head coach of CUC, Chase Hankins, coming up shortly. Have a chance to talk to Coach Hankins about his first win at the helm of CUC football. So don't go anywhere just yet. Post-game interview with Coach Hankins coming up shortly.
Welcome back to the Cougar Sports Network, everyone. I'm joined by head coach of CUC Football, Coach Chase Hankins. I think we can take a sigh of relief up here, Coach. That was an incredible finish to an incredible game, and you got your first win as head coach of the program. Big congrats. You're still drenched from the Gatorade bath and everything. And let's just start there, Coach. What's going through your head right now? I mean, you had an emotional end of the game for an emotional first win as your tenure of head coach. Just what's going through your head right now? I know it's kind of hard to sum up. But
Yeah. I mean, you know, we were sitting in the SID office yesterday talking about how we needed to finish games, and we lost the game week 1 because we couldn't finish in the red zone and we couldn't stop them in the red zone. And I think that Manchester had more red zone drives that didn't come away with any points, and we were 100% in the red zone today. So, you know, it's such a gratifying feeling that that the guys are listening to us and they're taking what we have to say and they're executing on the field. And, you know, even with that, we made a million mistakes that we'll solve tomorrow. But, you know, like nothing feels better than winning.
Right.
So it's an incredible feeling.
For sure. And as we got towards the end of the game, Manchester's storming back. They're getting stops on defense. They're putting up points on the board. What are you and the rest of your coaching staff telling the guys to kind of keep them focused and have them hold the line to that very last second? Just what are you and your coaching staff saying on the sideline to make sure that they're staying locked in and that they could finish the game like you said?
Everything that we preach. You know, Galatians 6:9, the narrow path, you know, like everything that we do culturally is built towards having them experience hardship and then doing what they've never done before and going through that hardship. So, you know, like, we actually didn't do very much of that on the sideline because they've just had it rammed into their heads and it's gone down into a reactionary memory for them where they just know that they got to continue fighting.
Right.
You know, like having a go-ahead touchdown drive after them stopping us and then getting stops in the red zone. You know, it shows that the words are carrying through into their actions, which is huge.
Right. And scoring that go-ahead touchdown was Jace Levi. Let's talk about the day. He had 3 touchdowns on the day. He had the first touchdown of the game was basically all Jace Levi on that play. Good blocking too, of course, and Jace Levi taking it to the house. I mean, what's it like? We talked about having Joran Brown on the team. What's it like having Jace Levi? You talked about letting your playmakers be playmakers, and you have a very special playmaker in Levi.
Yeah, have a ton of special playmakers. You know, Joran ran like a warrior today. Colton played a very good game.
Yeah.
You know, all of our receivers, our tight end, our offensive line. You know, play calling's a lot easier when you got guys that you can rely on. And it's what he does. You know, he's a competitor. He wants the ball. Winners always want the ball when the game's on the line.
Right.
And he wanted the ball.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And last thing to wrap up here, Coach, you got Lakeland, you got conference coming up next week. I know that's probably a million miles away right now in your head after what just happened, but what does this next week need to look like to prepare for that? You're coming off this big win over Manchester. What do you guys need to do over the next day, the next 2 days, 6 days, whatever it may be, to get ready to open up conference play here next Saturday?
Double down on everything that we've been doing. You know, we've incrementally gotten better at preparing. We've gotten incrementally better at being assignment proof. I think that just the jump from game 1 to game 2, play calling on both sides has gotten a lot better. Special teams has gotten a lot better. We need to take that extra step. And that's what a season is you got to keep doubling down on what works and cutting what doesn't.
CUC Football taking down Manchester University by the skin of their teeth today, 28-27. They'll be back in action next Saturday, taking on Lakeland University right here at Concordia University, Chicago. Kickoff for that is set for 1 p.m. Coverage can be found on our website, cucougars.com, and the live stream on our YouTube page, CUC Sports. Coach Hankins, thanks for joining me up here for Postgame, and big congrats on your first win again, Coach. Good luck when we see you guys in action again next week.
Absolutely.
But until CUC Football is back in action, this is Peter Borkowski signing off of the Cougar Sports Network and wanting to say, as always, go Cougars!
Go Cougs!
Hey Cougar fans, we hope you're enjoying today's CUC Football broadcast. If you're interested in donating to our Athletic Communications Department to help improve the live stream you're watching, click the thank button. We appreciate your support on and off the field and hope to see you soon on campus.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's Concordia University Chicago Cougars Athletics broadcast. We hope to see you on campus very soon. If you would like to learn more about what Concordia Chicago has to offer, go to cuchicago.edu.